2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It's the Bart Winkler Show on the Infinity Sports Network. In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
That's me. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Good Shepard in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. It is great to be with you, however, and wherever you may be listening from. You could be in your car, you could be in your truck, you could be checking us out on Sirius XM, channel 375. You can be at work like Ray Jarvis, the always entertaining, compelling, and dynamic Ray Jarvis, and myself. It is a pleasure to be with you each and every Saturday and Sunday morning, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'm always privileged and grateful to be able to, hop in for my guys, JR or Bart or whomever during the week. It's always exciting to be able to hit the airwaves with you. And per usual, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to college football, the NFL. We will give some flowers to Cooper Flagg. Not a lot of people are talking and discussing Cooper Flagg right now, but no longer is the youngest person in NBA history, LeBron James, to score at least 35 points in any NBA given game. So we'll get into that. We'll certainly get into the Patriots. I don't know when they are going to lose, if they are going to lose again, at least the rest of the regular season. You talk about a relatively manageable schedule. They have the Bills at home. We saw them smack the Bills around in Week 5 at Orchard Park. You know they have the reeling Ravens next, and then you have a bye week in essentially the Dolphins, and then definitely a bye week in the Jets. And that's the remaining 4 games of the New England Patriots. So stop me if one person you know or that you're associated with said New England is going to go 15-2 in year number 2 of Drake May and year number 1 of Mike Vrabel. Somewhere in Tennessee, there are people currently hiring a crisis counselor right now because for whatever reason, the Titans thought it'd be a good idea and good business to let Mike Vrabel go. Number to join us per usual is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. Before we get into Lane Kiffin, because I actually have not had an opportunity to weigh in on the whole Kiffin saga, let me say hi to my guy, Ray Jarvis. Ray, always a pleasure, brother. How you doing?
What's going on, Shep? How's everything?
Good, man. So I believe we're streaming?
We are live on YouTube.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Nice job, Ray. Wearing 3 hats tonight instead of 2. Well done, man. Ray, before we get started on Lane Kiffin, and we're certainly going to hear many thoughts from you throughout this show, do you feel like college is getting hijacked by drama more so than actual college football storylines? Are you in the same boat as me with that?
I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's getting hijacked, but it's definitely causing a mass distraction as far as we're not talking about conference championship games and the football of it all. We're talking about a coach who is not in the conference championship game, but he's moving on, but has a team in the playoff. But it kind of speaks to a point that I had mentioned a couple months ago with Carl Dukes, where because of the advent of the playoff, a weekend as big as conference championship weekend in college football doesn't matter as much anymore. So a guy like Lane Kiffin could come and sneak in and steal headlines for a few days because, think about it, Big Ten championship game is this Saturday, right?
Yeah.
The outcome doesn't matter. Besides, you get a banner, but both teams will be in the playoffs.
Both teams might be 1 and 2 despite the outcome.
Okay. SEC championship, same deal. They're going to be in the playoff. So it's just an additional week for a handful of teams. So, of course, Lane can tap dance all over the headlines because these games really don't matter like they used to matter. Back in the day, the SEC championship used to decide who was going to the BCS championship game.
So, folks, you just heard Ray in a 2-minute rant there elocute so articulately and smoothly the problem with college football. Now, this would never happen because he's a professional, but if Ray would have literally smacked the microphone, walk out, and leave me stranded, I would be pissed at Ray for many reasons. One of those reasons is because the man is really good on the air. So he's really good to go back and forth with. So if it was just Joe Schmo on the other side of the glass, and it was someone who I was kind of neutral about, and somebody who I was, lukewarm about, I wouldn't be as agitated. I wouldn't be as frustrated. And that's part of the equation here. Why people are so resentful over Lane Kiffin leaving is because he has one of the greatest comebacks in the history of coaching in any sport. That's why people are so frustrated. Now, we can get into the how, we can get into the tactics and the quote-unquote bedside manner, and believe me, we will. But we also have to give this man his flowers. Lane Kiffin was a bad NFL head coach by any measurement. By any calculation, he was horrible with the Raiders. He couldn't even make it to year 2. And this was a revolutionary hire in many people's eyes when it came to what Al Davis was looking to do in the late 2000s. When I say 2000s, I mean, 2000 to 2010, obviously. And then he goes to Tennessee. And he was not good at Tennessee. Now, he wasn't Bill Belichick bad, but he was bad. Tennessee, 1 game above 500. Nothing to write home about. Goes to USC. Is 0-2 in bowl games at USC. In 4 seasons there. Did not win a single bowl game. And just 1 year, which was year number 2, by the way, they had a respectable season. And they were not anywhere near contending for a college national championship. So that's Lane Kiffin in a nutshell in his first stint as a head coach. With the Raiders, Al Davis says, I've had enough of you midway through year 2. Go to college football. Is somewhat better in college, but not much. Gets the USC job because of his ties there and his relationship with Pete Carroll. Stinks the bed, and I'd use another word, but I can't. It's FCC airwaves. You get the point. It was lousy. And a lot of people felt like Lane Kiffin had those particular jobs because of his legendary late great father, a defensive guru in Monty Kiffin. So what does he do? He goes and learns from the greatest coach in the modern era in college football. I wouldn't say greatest of all time, but in this era, without question, the greatest coach, maybe in all of football. And Nick Saban taught him the ropes and taught him more schemes and discipline and structure and planning and how to maximize game film and recruiting. And Lane Kiffin took that and ran with it. And he gets to Florida Atlantic University. You know, it's certainly a stepping stone in his career. And he becomes the greatest coach in the history of the Owls program. The greatest coach. They had never had an 11-win season. In fact, they were so bad, they combined for just 9 wins. In the 3 previous seasons, Lane Kiffin got there. He gets there in year 1, they win 11 games. They win 11 games a couple years later, the greatest coach ever in FAU history. So he gets a respectable and, I believe, well-deserved upgrade. He gets a shot at Ole Miss. He's there for 6 years. And what does he do? He makes them the most relevant they have ever been in program history. And they had Eli Manning. They had Archie Manning. They had a number 1 overall pick, a number 2 overall pick. They've had some, and I believe Eli's going to be a Hall of Famer this time around. They've had some pretty special quarterbacks at Ole Miss. They have never reached the heights of what they have reached under Lane Kiffin. An 11-win season 2 years ago, which was a program best, and an 11-win season this year, and for the first time, making their debut in the college football playoff, and not only making their debut, but they're actually going to have a home game in the first round of the playoffs, what many people believe is the biggest and most important game ever played in the state of Ole Miss. That's how important it is for this squad to find themselves in the college football playoff. We know about Jackson Dart. Say whatever you want about Cam Ward. Say whatever you want about any other rookie playing in the NFL. Jackson Dart is the best first-year quarterback in the NFL in 2025. You think it's an accident that he played for Lane Kiffin? That's why people are so miffed, so perturbed, so frustrated, so annoyed. That's what really hurts, is that Ole Miss, for the first time in 60 years, has a chance to actually compete for a national title before Archie Manning, who's Arch's grandfather, as we all know. That's how long ago that was. And so there is anger. There is resentment. Now, you can talk about the tactics all you want. If this is Joe Schmo, if they didn't fire Brian Kelly, Brian fake Southern accent Kelly, they would have had no problem with him walking away like this. They would have no problem with him exiting stage left because he was lousy at LSU. By LSU standards, you go there, you win a national championship. We've had 3 coaches go there and win national championships. It ain't just a Nick Saban thing. It's a Cookie Monster thing. Hi, Ed Orgeron. I won't do an impersonation. Don't worry. We know the Mad Hatter. He was able to also win a national title there, and Les Miles. So the point is, if you didn't care, Ole Miss, about this particular individual and the impact he had in 6 years, you wouldn't be acting up the way you are and talking in the language that you are talking in. Now, with all that being said, now that we got the pleasantries and the compliments out of the way, let's get back to the how of Lane Kiffin. And this is where people absolutely should be disappointed and upset, not just at Lane, but the system. We know that there have been more than a handful of coaches that have been hired at SEC schools within the last 72 to 96 hours, okay? This should never happen in the middle of the season. And there is not a more diligent, more sought-out candidate than Lane Kiffin right now. So he's got leverage. He made Ole Miss the most relevant they have ever been in the program's history, and it is a program dating back to 120 years ago. Raise your hand if you know anybody still alive that was around 120 years ago. Exactly. No hand should be raised at this present time. But because you have that leverage, because you are in a situation and a position where you are the most sought-out coach right now in the open market, we know Ryan Day ain't going anywhere, right? We understand Dabo Swinney, even though some Clemson fans may want it otherwise, he's not going anywhere. We know that Kirby Smart is not going anywhere. We know the great and lavish extension that Kurt Signetti signed. He ain't going anywhere either. So Lane Kiffin has the leverage. He's not in a bidding war with another coach for LSU. So why can't he say, wait a minute, I made a promise, I gave my word, I owe it to the program that I am a part of to finish the job. I know the rules are completely messed up and completely out of whack and nonsensical and illogical and irrational. And there needs to be some kind of a czar, some kind of leadership where they have this half-assed backwards process go away forever. because the season should stand alone as the season. Just like in the NFL, we don't have coaches in the middle of a season changing to go to other teams. Now, we did have Flacco go to a different team in his own division, but that's a different conversation for a different day. We should never be, and I understand NIL and the transfer portal has changed amateur athletics forever, and there's no way that you can put the tooth back in the toothpaste. I get all that. But there needs to be a huge shift in how college sports, specifically college football, is done. National Signing Day should not be in the middle of a season. Heavy recruiting that takes away from an actual team and a coach should not be heavy induced when it comes to the middle of a season. All of this should be taking place in an offseason. And Lane Kiffin, while he may not exactly be the most polite, most character-oriented guy, he ain't a fool. He ain't a damn idiot. He's got to be a bigger person. He's got to say, you know what? It doesn't matter what the rules allow me to do. It matters what is right as a coach and a leader to do. And I don't know if Ryan Day would do something like that. I don't know if let's just say it didn't work out with Brian Schottenheimer and the Dallas Cowboys. And Jerry Jones said, I want myself some Ryan Day. Ryan Day would not leave Ohio State in the middle of the season, and there may not be a more polarizing or more spotlight-heavy job than being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think Dabo Swinney would do that. I don't think Kurt Signetti would do that. The guy that Penn State thought they'd be better off with than James Franklin, I don't think he'd do that. We know Saban would do it. So, of course, when Lane Kiffin comes out and said, I talked to Pete Carroll, I talked to Nick Saban, I rested heavily on their advice, and, they're the ones that said, specifically, your dad would say, go for it. I guarantee you Nick Saban would say that because Nick Saban was always about himself. Nick Saban ain't kind of a czar on moral authority. He was lying through his teeth when he said he wasn't taking the Alabama job when he was at Miami. And we all know what happened with that. He was giving all kinds of mixed messages at LSU when he said he wasn't going into the NFL. And 6 months later, he's making a guy in training camp cry. So Lane Kiffin does have some responsibility here. He does have ownership here. He does have a role that he has to play as a coach, as a mentor, as a leader. And he completely ruined any goodwill that he had built up for the last, I'll say, over 10 years, because he has been a head coach now in college football for the better part of a decade. And he did a hell of a job as the offensive coordinator at Alabama. But you have to have a moral compass if you are a head coach on any level. I do agree that in theory, the reason you coach is not to get wins. That is a byproduct of the impact that you are having on young men. That's what it should be about. And if it's not, then let's just turn college sports into a complete business. Let's just go full throttle. Let's eliminate the school portion of it. Let's eliminate the student body and just turn it into NFL 2.0. Let's turn it into the NFL's version of a G League, because that's what you're signaling by allowing coaches to, in the middle of the night, waltz to another team, and they don't even think twice about it. And Lane Kiffin could say all he wants, that God told him to go. I believe that. I do believe Lane Kiffin, in his mind, spoke to a higher power, and the higher power gave him a signal that he needs to take that next step in his career. I got no issue with that. Ray, what's your favorite TV station?
Right now?
Yeah.
HBO.
If HBO called you right now and said, we got Stephen A., Colin Coward, Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, Jim Rome, all on the same dais, but you got to be here in 2 hours. We want to give you 2 hours of national airtime across these other 5 gentlemen. Are you saying no?
No. I'm there.
It doesn't matter what's happening to me right now, right?
No, Shep, I love you, but I'm out.
That's my point. But Ray, as talented as you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, on the big board, this may be different a week from now, but right now, is Ray Jarvis the top candidate among sports media personalities to land that next big gig?
No.
Not now. So you don't have the leverage. Lane Kiffin had all the leverage. That's what really bothers me about this.
So, Shep, let me ask you this question.
Oh, yes.
What should he have done, in your opinion? I think, because you know what, I feel like, Your belief system is getting in the way of what's going on here. You're a good guy, and you have honorable beliefs. But there's a lot of dishonor in being a college football coach. And for me, I'm looking at what Lane did. I think the only reason why it's jarring to me is because Ole Miss is 11-1 and could potentially sneak in and win the championship, and you run out the door to go to LSU.
If they don't get shut out 17-0 by Georgia in Georgia, they're potentially a number 1 seed.
Hands down.
That's how great of a season they had. So I was getting to that, but it's a fair question. What should he have done? He has the leverage, not LSU. They're the ones that completely whiffed on a guy they thought was going to be the answer in Brian Kelly. And you and I could have probably had a better season than Brian Kelly, and I say that with some seriousness because they were so uninspired to play for this man. Okay?
I do a better Southern accent, too.
I'm not surprised, Ray. I wouldn't be surprised for 1 second. And by the way, you would handle an exit a lot better than Brian Kelly would because you know what? Brian Kelly did the same thing to Cincinnati. He did the same thing to Notre Dame. He left both teams high and dry in the middle of the night, and I haven't even gotten into the poaching of Lane Kiffin and trying to completely sabotage the program for the sake of his own empire at LSU. But with all that being said, you asked me a direct question. I'm going to answer you directly. What could Lane Kiffin have done? We both agree this is the number 1 guy as a head coaching candidate with the other coaches, Signetti and Day and Smart, not going anywhere. So we all agree that on the open market, Lane Kiffin was the best possible option. You say to LSU, I am going to be with you long term. I am going to give you everything I have. It will be the best hire you have made this century, and I know you hired some guy that won 6 national championships in Nick Saban. But I cannot abandon the guys that I coached this year where we reached an unprecedented amount of heights and had an unparalleled amount of success compared to any years past. That is what Lane Kiffin tells LSU because, you know what? The Raiders, crazier things have happened. We saw them go back to the well with John Gruden. Now, John Gruden had more success with the Raiders than Lane Kiffin did, but they circled back. There's news in radio that I'm sure you're aware of, Ray, that circled back to a very successful talent. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
people
it's circle back season, it seems.
People circle back all the time because talent is talent. And if Lane Kiffin coaches his rear end off at LSU, you don't think an NFL team is going to look to be poaching him? Sure they are. Lane Kiffin, by coaching standards, is young. He's 50. Pete Carroll is a century older than Lane Kiffin. Bill Belichick, when I say a century older, quarter of a century older. Bill Belichick.
I think I like a century older better.
I know.
It sticks to landing a lot funnier.
Well, I tell you what, if I describe Bill Belichick, he acts like he's a century older. And by the way he coached this year with that sad-ass 4-win season he had, he might as well be a century older.
Oh, he dates much younger than that century, though.
Oh, my God. Much younger is the understatement of the century. Speaking of century, Ray, it might be a century difference between those two. But I digress. The point is, when it comes to Lane Kiffin, he goes to the leadership. He goes to even the governor, who apparently he's BFFs with. And he says, I am not under any circumstances going to abandon you. I'm never going to leave you high and dry. That's what I believe in as a coach. That's what I believe we should be teaching and honoring and displaying for the young men, that you don't leave a company when you make a commitment, and when you do have a better opportunity, you handle it the right way, and you don't do it in the middle of a season when everybody has put in months and months and months of sweat and equity and blood and tears into what the mission is. He could have done that. So the point is, when it comes to Lane Kiffin, what he should have done, he should have absolutely optimized the leverage that he had, which he had earned, and done things the right way. Not have certain people as analysts in his pocket talking about, this is what Lane should have done, and I agree and concur with Lane. Having his buddy interview him and what seemed like another tarmac. I am disgusted with the way that Lane Kiffin handled himself. And LSU, you're in for a rude awakening when he does this all over again in a few years. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. You will hear from Lane Kiffin, the horse's mouth, why he took his job, even though we all know it is complete coach speak. You will certainly hear from Lane Kiffin on why he took the job, his thoughts about departing Ole Miss high and dry. I will tell you why I am disappointed and not outraged. We will also get to your calls as well at 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. And we're streaming on YouTube. So hit us up on the YouTube chat if you can't get through on our busy phone lines at 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. You can always follow me at Shep On Air, whether it be Twitter or Instagram. It's always great to be filling in for my guy, Bart Winkler, right here on the Infinity Sports Network. You know we're coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
That's me. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Good Shepherd in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. Great to be alongside you, however and wherever you may be listening from. I will be getting in that YouTube chat soon. It's great to have those. And I don't know if you're following YouTube at all presently, but is it the current cast of characters?
Some names I haven't seen before, so that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. Listen, we're going to get to calls because we know a lot of people want to weigh in on Lane Kiffin. I do want to tap into Ray's brain a little bit more on what he feels like the right thing to do was if you were in Lane Kiffin's shoes. But let's hear from the horse's mouth. He says this was a really tough decision to leave Ole Miss. He wants to cue up the violins. This is courtesy of ESPN. Let's take a listen.
You know that this was a very challenging, difficult day. You know, we went through a lot last night with Keith Carter trying to figure out a way, you know, to make this playoff, you know, run work and be able to coach the team. And at the end of the day, that's his decision. And I totally respect that. I understand that decision. And, you know, so I just totally wish the team the best of luck, wish that I was coaching, but understand that it was a very challenging position for him and the Chancellor to be in, and totally respect that.
So Lane, you don't have a bad, I should say you have a really bad track record, but you don't exactly have the best reputation when it comes to how you leave programs. So you say you want to positively impact people at LSU?
When I spoke at my dad's funeral, he moved 17 times. And I realized when all the people, I got all the letters, calls, people showed up from around all those different spots, NC State, all the different spots he coached. And they said he was able to impact them and how much that meant to them. And so I've really strived since that day to really try to impact people and help people through life, through my journey. So just prayed a lot and made a family decision and, you know, hopefully get a chance to go, you know, impact a whole new set of people.
What about the set of people that you were directly in contact with for the last few months? What about those individuals? Do they not count because they don't play for a school that's won a national championship this century? See, Lane, it's really easy to be hyped and to butter people up and to be your best self when you want something from others, when you're introducing yourself to others. It's really easy to be glib and to be garrulous and to be benign. But the way you really judge someone, Lane, to me, is how someone handles themselves when they exit. Because there's nothing in it for them at that point other than just being a decent human being. And I got to be honest with you. You clearly know your father a lot better than I ever will, and God rest Monty Kiffin's soul. I have a feeling he wouldn't love the fact that you quit on a team. And not only quit on a team, but the best team that you've ever coached. And you had an opportunity to do something that no other coach at Ole Miss ever has gotten the opportunity to do, and that is win in the college football playoff. You go from what was, not in theory, in actuality, a playoff team in college football, having a home game in the college football playoff, to a situation where it's an unknown. Now, you'd like to think with all the resources that LSU has, you're going to be able to deliver, but this isn't how you go about delivering it. Because all those individuals that you coached, that you quote-unquote cared about, that you quote-unquote mentored, they have the worst and most sour taste in their mouths when it comes to you. Let's get to the busy phone lines. Let's get to Sam in San Diego. Sam, appreciate your patience, man. How you doing on the West Coast, and what do you want to say about Lane Kiffin's exit?
Man, I'm doing great. The weather's perfect, and no drama to be had over here.
Fair enough.
Although I am a Gator fan, so we missed out on the sweepstakes. But I do not want to defend Lane at all. But from what I was hearing,
yes,
is that I think it was more of the pride of the Ole Miss higher echelons, because I think they didn't want Lane to have his cake and eat it too, because they knew he was leaving. They wanted a new coach in there that was going to lock down the recruits and for this next set, because the schedule is so jacked up with the NCAA right now that it forces the coaches to make these stupid or these really hard decisions at this point in the year when they shouldn't really be doing it. And Lane, from everything that I was reading about, was that he wanted to coach it really bad, and the faculty was saying, like, you need to make that decision by the Egg Bowl or right after, So in no way am I defending Lane. I think it was evident that the faculty or whoever, the president and the AD, didn't want him coaching if he was taking LSU.
Right, because it's not even coaching the game that they were really worried about. It was about getting in with the players and in with the coaching staff that maybe didn't necessarily want to go with Lane Kiffin to try to do a little bit of in-house recruiting and completely leave the program in shambles. Not only are you losing the greatest head coach in your program's history, and Sam, that's how I began this particular Lane Kiffin position, is that the reason so many are angry is not just the how he went about it, but who he is. Because who he is an incredible head coach. That there's no getting around that. This is one of the great second acts in coaching history. Now, Sam, to your point, I get what you're saying. He is confined and restricted based on the season itself. So he's limited in what he can do. I agree 1,000% with you on that. But as I alluded to, no coach in America has more leverage than Lane Kiffin right now. Is there a hotter candidate in the country than Lane Kiffin?
No, and I don't think the leverage thing was in his favor. I think he had leverage for other colleges and other universities, but I think Ole Miss was like, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot for not allowing him to coach it. But
I agree, but
it's their pride.
No, but it's their pride. But they also don't want him poaching. But if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm saying to LSU, look. You can put it out there that I may be coming. That's fine. And just so you know, we can have a handshake agreement that I am coming. But I am not going to make anything official until I am done coaching this team. And that way, Lane can get that national championship contention experience. He can get that college football playoff experience. Because, Sam, if I'm LSU, I want to be able to say to my boosters, my alumni, my donors, we're bringing in a guy that's not just the hottest coaching candidate in the country. We're bringing in a guy that just won 2 playoff games in the college football playoff. So there's even incentive for LSU to kind of stay mum on this and not exactly close this deal until the season is done. Now, I hear you. He's got to be there for certain recruiting and all that, but I'd be willing to let this man coach and get a little bit behind the 8 ball the next year for what I know is going to be invaluable experience coaching in the college football playoff. And if you're thinking big picture, it's just really crappy for the game of college football that a school can do this to another school. But, Sam, good call on your part. I appreciate it, man. You have a great rest of your night, okay?
You too. Thanks. Good show.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. Number to join us is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. If you are on hold, you want to weigh in on Lane Kiffin, we will certainly get to your calls on the other side. Marco Belletti, scale of 1 to 10, how sick are you of discussing Lane Kiffin at this point?
Probably in the 3 and 4 range. Yeah, I'm tired of it, yes,
right.
But I understand the conversation needs to be had.
Let me ask you this question. Really good coach, or would you consider him great right now? Would you consider him a top 10 coach in the country?
I mean, we've been diluted a bit over the years. So, yeah, maybe, but I do come back to the same thing. And this is not a knock on Lane Kiffin, but it's the absolute truth. What exactly has he won?
It's a great question. He's won 111 in one season at Ole Miss. He won a Gator Bowl. He won an Outback Bowl. He won a Peach Bowl. But to your point, he hasn't won the granddaddy of them all. He struggled at USC. He struggled at Tennessee, and he has not won the college football playoff, nor has he even made the college football playoff.
But I was going to say, that's the other part of it, too, that people forget. Yeah. He's never even made it there. This would have been the first one.
He won as a coordinator. Does that count?
No.
Okay.
No, and he also didn't, he also got sent home before that final game, too. So, look, he's complicated. That's part of what Lane Kiffin, what makes it, a lightning bolt and draws us in. He's complicated because he's had such a long, windy, weird road.
Yeah. But it's a road that has been full of redemption these last 10 years. That's the sad thing of all of this, is all the goodwill he has built up at FAU, at Ole Miss, because he was an average coach for the first 3 stints of his head coaching career. He had a good year in year number 2 at USC. I'll give him that. Outside of that, he has had a resume to forget about very quickly. He learned from Nick Saban, the greatest coach of this generation, and he completely resurrected his career. So you're right. He is complicated. But for the last 10 years, he's turned everything around. He's made up with his wife. He's become a faithful man. He's become someone that's taking care of his body. It's just, I mean, really gone to the well in terms of looking inside and being the best person he could be. And he's a great father. Like, everything you could like about a coach, he has become that. And he ruined all that goodwill in the last 72 to 96 hours.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't buy all that. I got to be fair. I don't know what he did in his personal. I don't pretend to get into people's personal lives because I don't believe in that. That also has nothing to do with anything. I don't know. Yeah, he's resurrected his coaching career, yes. But what exactly has he done that's ruined his reputation? And the idea that he took a better job? I wanted him to stay at Ole Miss because I think in this game, in this day and age of what college football is, you can be what you think LSU is at Ole Miss, because this is all about money.
Yeah.
So this has nothing to do with, I can't get the recruits. Sure you can. You have money, you can get the recruits. So to me, this is not about, the old way of, I can only go so far at this place because they can't get me over the hump and I want to win a national title. You can win a national title anywhere now.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with all the old way where you got to be at Alabama, you got to be at Texas. No, you don't. You could be at a lot of different places. So in that regard, I thought he had it good. He had it built. He had resurrected and he had already established it there, and he needed to just get one more step to get over the hump. I wanted to see him take that to fruition. But the idea that he's, flushed all goodwill because he took in reality, a better job, I struggle with this because everybody takes a better job. I don't see what...
I hear you, but it's and I know we got an update.
Is it the timing?
I know we got an update to go to. It is the timing. There's something sacred about being a head coach, especially at a college level. Yes, it's not amateur status anymore, but you do have an obligation to 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old young men that you made an ironclad commitment to when you sat in those living rooms and made that verbal commitment, Marco. I hear what you're saying, but this is a different type of job.
I get it. He's not the first coach to jump ship. In the middle of a season or at the end of a season. He's not.
Fifth bad exit if you're Lane Kiffin. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN. The famous Seinfeld line was, listen, you don't know how to make an entrance, but you sure make fine exits. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We will continue to take all your Lane Kiffin calls on the other side. I will tell you why, again, I'm disappointed, but I'm not outraged when it comes to Lane Kiffin. We will certainly get into the New England Patriots' absolute, emphatic, and decisive victory over the New York Giants on Monday Night Football. We will talk about the hierarchy of the AFC. There is so much more to do on the Good Shepherd, filling in for the great Bart Winkler right here on the Infinity Sports Network. Before we do that, let's get to our latest sports flash. Here's Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And Shepard, sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Ole Miss didn't have Lane Kiffin anymore, but they did get offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss Jr. back, at least for the college football playoff run. Weiss has been allowed to coach for the Rebels during the playoff before he joins Kiffin at LSU. Playoff committee actually saw fit to move the Rebels up one spot despite the loss to Kiffin. Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, that's your top 5. Texas A&M fell 4 spots to number 7, followed by Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, and Miami. BYU has agreed to a multi-year extension with Kalani Sitake after he flirted with Penn State. Nittany Lions continue to overturn every rock to find a replacement now for James Franklin. Taking a look at the NBA, there's only one game currently going. That's the Pelicans trailing the T-Wolves now 139-132, under 2 minutes remaining in overtime. Anthony Edwards has put up 42 points already. Coming up at the top of the hour, you got the Thunder and the Warriors. Some finals as the Celtics came back from 14 down, courtesy of 42 points from Jaylen Brown. Took out the Knicks 123-117. Spurs a 126-119 win over the Grizzlies. Harrison Barnes with 31. The Sixers rolled the Wizards 121-102. Tyrese Maxey at 35. And the Raptors handled the Blazers 121-118 behind 28 from Scotty Barnes. College hoops, Kansas. Check that UConn in front of Kansas, 48-46. They're midway through the second half. Kentucky and North Carolina even at 31, still at half. First half action, it's Oregon in front of USC, 26-19. Finals, great one with Duke in Florida.
Gets it in for Caleb. Playing there defensively. 27 seconds to go. Bounces top of the key. Boozer's got it now. Shinyulu there defensively. Dribbles to the right to Evans on the left. He wants a three. Got it! Big time from Slam. The lead is won. 67-66. 15 seconds to go.
There's your game winner. Cameron Boozer led the way with 29 and 6 rebounds. Duke able to outlast Florida 67-66. Call courtesy of the Blue Devils Radio Network. Rest of your scores: top-ranked Purdue dismissed Rutgers 81-65. Michigan State rolled Iowa 72-51. And Syracuse upended Tennessee 62-60. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Check out our new and improved website at infinitysportsnet.com. That's infinitysportsnet.com.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This indeed is David Shepard, a.k.a. The Good Shepherd, in for my guy, Bart Winkler. You can always follow me at Shep On Air, whether it be Twitter or Instagram. You can always reach us at 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Ray, before we get back to the busy phone lines, you don't have much of an issue with what Lane Kiffin did, do you?
Not at all. I don't think there's, for lack of a better phrase, but I think it's apropos. There's no honor amongst thieves. This is just
That's a good quote.
The latest thing. You know, you look at the NIL era specifically. No player is married to a coach. Before, the coach could just get up and leave whenever he wanted to, and the players had to understand it. But with the NIL era, although there's some changes they're going to make to the transfer portal pretty soon, nevertheless, players, if they don't like their situation, they can go to the highest bidder. They don't have to wait out. Remember back in the day, if you transferred, you had to sit a year before you could play.
Oh, yeah.
You can just go from, so you could, honestly, in your 4-year window, you could play for 4 schools if you want. This is how this thing works out. So when I look at Lane Kiffin, I'm just thinking to myself, I'm not mad that he left so much as, why did you go to LSU? That's really what I've been stuck on. All right, cool, coaches can move around. But what about building a legacy? We have all of the brand name schools in the SEC. LSU is one of those brand names. I get it.
Right.
Alabama's a brand name.
Georgia.
Georgia.
Texas now.
Texas now. Back in the
Yes.
day, not so much anymore, but Florida. These are the brand names of the SEC.
Sure.
Ole Miss is not necessarily to that tier. But if you think about the year-over-year improvement that Lane has brought to that program, why not make Ole Miss the next SEC powerhouse? Why leave to go to a brand name when you're literally in real time establishing a brand name of Ole Miss with quality football, quality NFL talent? Because that's part of it too. Who are you putting out into the pros? And are they decent pros? He's doing all of these things.
Yep.
So now you're going to go to LSU. Why? Because it's LSU? Well, you could have made Ole Miss LSU.
It's a great point, Ray. And he could have gone down as an absolute institution at Ole Miss. Instead, he's going to go down as Benedict Arnold. Let's get to Jeff in New Orleans, calling from the state of Louisiana. Something tells me Jeff is more excited than people in Mississippi right now. Jeff, how you doing tonight, and what you got for us, sir?
Well, actually, Shep, that's not the case, and I will explain why, but I'd like to first preface my comment by saying this. I wish he had stayed at Ole Miss. Because just like you said earlier, he's a runaway bride, brother. He's going to get to the altar and take off, so he's going to do it to us too. And I'd just rather that not happen. But here's the point where I kind of not so much disagree with you, Shep, but I'm not following your what you're saying he should have done, because what happened is, this is the reality. He played Florida on November 15th. Okay, on Saturday.
Right.
He stayed Sunday and Monday and toured the facilities and talked to everyone there.
Okay.
Now, obviously, Ole Miss knew he did that. Okay, you with me?
Yes.
Okay. Then just a few weeks ago, A week before the Egg Bowl, he was picked up by a private jet from LSU.
And his family, right.
Brought down.
Yep.
Don't you think Ole Miss knew that?
They had to, well, you can't just fly coaches willy-nilly that aren't in your organization or school. They have to know about that.
So you with me on that?
Yes.
Now, what Ole Miss did, knowing that he was looking at those two universities, they said, you need to make a decision. So he was not able to just stay there and wait till he was finished with the college football playoffs to make his decision. They forced his hand. He could not do that.
Well,
are you with me?
I'm with you. You've asked me for a third time, am I with you? You don't ever have to worry about me being with you or staying with you, Jeff. But what I will say is I get all that. And Ole Miss, yeah, they weren't perfect in this either. And there is some pettiness on their part, too. We understand that as well. They're the jilted bride left at the altar. But Lane Kiffin could tell them, look, I'm very happy here, but they made me incredible offers through my agent, through my representation. I owe it to my family to at least explore what's out there. It doesn't mean I am going. Coaches are poached every single day, especially when they win. So, Jeff, listen, I don't want to cut you short. We got about 40 seconds, so finish your final point.
No, I'm pretty much done. I don't think that would have flown. I just don't think that would have flown with Ole Miss. I think they were going to force his hand. They knew he was going to do something. Okay, and Chef, well, just before I go, I'll leave you with this.
Sure.
When I said, "Are you with me?" I didn't mean that disrespectfully.
Jeff, I didn't take it for.
What I meant, my friend, was that.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with me?
Yes. Jeff, by the way, you make a great point. He's going to do this to LSU at some point. It is not going to be a clean exit. It is not going to be something that is smooth. Jeff, great call on your part. Appreciate the back and forth. And you have a great rest of your night. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. You too. I wish he'd go home right now, back to Ole Miss, sir. You have a good evening.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate the honesty, and I get the sense that Jeff may be in the minority when it comes to the state of Louisiana. We will continue to take your calls on Lane Kiffin, but when we get to the top of the next hour, we want to go to something that isn't polarizing, that isn't controversial. It's just a team that is well ahead of schedule. It's the New England Patriots, and damn, are they clicking on all cylinders. You'll hear from the necessary parties next. This is the Good Shepherd in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. We're coming right back, folks. 3 hours to go.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It's the Bart Winkler Show on the Infinity Sports Network. In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This, of course, is the Good Shepard in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. Appreciate y'all tuning in, however and wherever you may be listening from. Appreciate all of you in the YouTube chat. It's great to see the usuals. It's great to see some new people as well. We like to keep the show as interactive as possible. We appreciate Ray Jarvis setting us up with that and making that work for all of us and making it even more interactive in that way. We certainly have spent a lot of time in the first hour talking about Lane Kiffin. We will take your calls on Lane Kiffin momentarily. I did want to get in to the New England Patriots because what they are doing this year is nothing short of phenomenal, and it is completely confounding, mind-boggling, and the utmost surprise considering what New England has been the last 2 years. They have been bottom dwellers. They have been the absolute pits of the NFL, to quote the great John McEnroe, a.k.a. Johnny Mac. They've been awful. Doesn't matter who is coaching them. Doesn't matter if it's an up-and-comer like Gerard Mayo. Doesn't matter if it's a coaching legend like Bill Belichick. They seem to hit a rut, were stuck in mud, and could not get out of reverse. And what is one franchise's quote-unquote trash, which he never should have been, by the way, in the eyes of ownership when it came to the Tennessee Titans. But Tennessee thought it was a good idea to get rid of one of the best coaches in the NFL, a guy that won 4 of 5 years there, a guy that brought Ryan Tannehill. Ray, what is Ryan Tannehill doing with himself right now? And I'm not trying to insult Ryan Tannehill when I ask that question, by the way.
I have no idea. I Maybe he's at a Quiznos or something.
Maybe.
That's still in business.
Maybe he's doing a podcast like every other ex-athlete these days. Who knows?
Well, that's a great pick. The Ryan Tannehill podcast. Maybe he's breaking down quarterback film and teaching us the position of quarterback.
What do they call it? Pick six? I'm just kidding.
He might have to cut you a check, man.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is, no one, and especially Miami Dolphins fans, no one is going to say Ryan Tannehill is an elite quarterback. They're probably not even going to say at any point of his career that he's been a good quarterback. But Mike Vrabel took a Ryan Tannehill-led Tennessee Titans squad and brought them to the AFC Championship. The very next year, he brought them to a number 1 seed. And New England knew Tennessee made one of the biggest mistakes in franchise history by, after 5 years of proof that Mike Vrabel can coach his rear end off and can get the best out of players and is absolutely able to get a level of respect from NFL guys like very few can because of his playing resume. They thought it'd be a good idea to let him go. That was the biggest gift New England could have received. And he has made such a difference for this team. They play absolute fun and tough-nosed football. They play for each other. You see how well they hit the A-gaps on a simple defensive blitz. You see how effective they are with the run game. There's balance to this team. Yeah, Drake May had 2 passing touchdowns. He was excellent yet again against the New York Giants, but that game was 30-7 by halftime. We all knew that was essentially a bye for the New England Patriots. And we also know the New England Patriots have now won 9 games in a row. Actually, I think it might even be. Well, they were 1-2. I'm trying to do the math in my head. This is math right on the air. They were 1-2, so they have won 10 games in a row. They've won 10 games in a row. That's insane when you consider the last 34 games they've played, because as we all know, it's 17 games each season. They have won just 8. And the last 10 games they've played, they've won all 10. And they ran away with that game against the New York Giants. And credit their defense, by the way, for absolutely showing the balance on both sides of the football. They held Jackson Dart, and this was supposed to be a coming-out party for Jackson Dart because he had dealt with the concussions and he had dealt with the somewhat reckless play on the field. This was going to be a coming-out moment for him, showing he can compete with the very best on Monday Night Football. There's a lot to be garnered, and there's a lot to be sought after when it comes to the future of the New York Giants, because any coach is going to be lucky to coach Jackson Dart. And he, for all intents and purposes, has been a really nice, shiny toy for the New York Giants this year. By far their best quarterback all year. They held Jackson Dart to less than 140 passing yards. Jackson Dart played the entire game. That is called getting it done as a defense. And the 100-plus yards combined by Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, you love that solid run game. That's balance on offense. And no disrespect to Hunter Henry, no disrespect to the revival and the second act in Stephon Diggs, but this guy was an afterthought when he played for Houston. Let's be honest, most of you could not even tell me where Stephon Diggs played last year. He was all-pro 5 years ago. That's ages ago in receiving terms. And Drake May has turned Stephon Diggs yet again into the guy he was when he was actually enjoying playing in Buffalo, when he was making game-winning playoff plays in Minnesota. But the reason the Patriots, along with the coaching of Mike Vrabel, find themselves an NFL best 11-2 is because of the ascension at a rapid speed from Drake May. The guy is so good at being able to know when the first option isn't there and make that second and third option look flawless. He is never panicked. He is never scared. He does exactly what is asked of him to do. He's even keel. He is never stuck in mud when it comes to getting rushed, when it comes to getting pressure in the pocket. He does not look like a second-year quarterback. And right now, he is first in the NFL in completion percentage. He is first in passing yards. He is fourth in passing touchdowns. And he is by far the best quarterback out of that 2024 draft class. And as you all know, Caleb, Jaden, you talk about Michael Penix Jr., obviously Drake May, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy. We've never had a draft in the history of the NFL where 6 quarterbacks were picked with the first 12 picks. That can go down potentially as one of the greatest quarterback draft classes in NFL history, and we all thought Jaden Daniels was going to be the guy. Now, he's been hurt for majority of the season, but Drake May has lapped him this year. Jaden Daniels was good in 2024. He was really good for a rookie. He wasn't looking anything like this version of Drake May. Drake May has such a command of this offense, able to make all kinds of throws off his back foot, rolling out of bounds. The guy also has more rushing yards than Lamar Jackson and Caleb Williams this year. So he's not Tom Brady in just being a great pocket passer and being the most avid, film study guy there is in the building. He can also move those wheels. Tom Brady on his best day, even with his avocado ice cream, he couldn't move the way that Dre May can move out there. So if you are New England, like I said, you are completely ahead of schedule. And this isn't a Bills and Chiefs situation. And that's what you love about New England's chances come playoff time. Because if Patrick Mahomes is not vintage Patrick Mahomes, if Josh Allen is not Superman, the Bills don't stand a chance in the playoffs, nor do the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what you have to be really impressed by when it comes to New England. It's their balance. And this is what's so important about the NFL, folks. You can be a completely different team from 1 month to the next. You can be a completely different team from week to week. We're about to talk about the Cowboys and their potential Thursday night football matchup against the Detroit Lions. The Cowboys looked like they wanted to be anywhere but A&T Stadium when they played the Arizona Cardinals on Monday Night Football. And they lost to a backup in Jacoby Brissett. Well, fast forward, now listen, everyone beats the Raiders, but then they beat the Super Bowl, defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. 4 days later, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what's so fascinating about the NFL. You can look like you don't belong 1 week. The very next week, you can look like a world beater. And the New England Patriots, they didn't look like they were really making that much progress from last year at the start of the season. They looked slow on offense. They looked sluggish. They didn't necessarily have a really prolific game plan. They were letting touchdowns by them left and right. They lost to the Raiders. Yeah, the Raiders at home. They lost to the Steelers at home. That same poor excuse for a football team we saw go up against the Bills at Heinz Field and lose 26-7. But what happened ever since? Not only have they taken care of business at home for the rest of the season, you saw impressive road victories against the Buccaneers and against the Bills. And what you have to love about this team's chances to get that number 1 seed, look at their next 4 games. They got the Buffalo Bills at home, the same team that completely showed up in Week 5 at Orchard Park in Buffalo, obviously. They got the Ravens the very next week. And the Ravens do not look like the Ravens of old. These are not your older brother's Baltimore Ravens. These are the Ravens that are playing for John Harbaugh's job and don't look like they even want to make the playoffs. It's going to be a who's left standing in the AFC North between the Steelers and the Ravens. That's how bad both teams look right now. The next week, you got the Miami Dolphins. And then in the conclusion for the 2025 regular season in Week 18, you got the ultimate bye, and Ray Jarvis and I could go out there and be somewhat competitive at 39 and 38, respectively, against the New York Jets. And, Ray, I'm not exactly joking when I say that.
The Jets have been looking a little bit better, though, Chevy.
What, 3 wins? That's the standard? That's the bar right now?
I think we could stop them. If we play defense, I think we could stop them.
In all seriousness, like Ray, you're an athlete. Did you play varsity football?
No, I was a knucklehead, but I played. Even after into my professional years, like when I got jobs and careers, I still played flag football, basketball. Only recently stopped playing.
Okay, all right. So I mean, listen, you're a dad. That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, and I'm afraid I'm gonna pop my Achilles. I won't lie.
Well, that's fair. But the point is, football is all about getting low. If you can get low, that's all it takes to tackle. It's just get low and wrap. It's getting lower than their center of gravity.
It's all about leverage. All about leverage.
I wish Lane Kiffin took that advice. Full circle moment right there. But here's what we know. I mentioned the favorable schedule for the New England Patriots. Folks, there's a real shot they could finish this season 14-3. Now, even Gilberto in San Diego, wherever he's listening right now, you know he's a big Patriots fan. There is no way that even Gilberto on his best day would have predicted this New England team in year 2 of Drake and year 1 of Vrabel, they would be a 14-win squad and the top of the NFL, and more specifically, the number 1 seed in the AFC. But, folks, that's exactly what looks like is going to happen because they don't play in what is an arduous, demanding schedule in the division that the Denver Broncos find themselves in, going against the likes of Kansas City. They're going to have to face them one more time. They're going to have to face the Chargers one more time. So we understand that the Broncos, who New England is basically neck and neck with right now, they have a tougher schedule than New England. Outside of you cannot see New England losing both games when it comes to Buffalo and Baltimore. So you got to give them at least 1 or 2. There's no way, the way the Miami Dolphins have looked, that they're going to be able to compete with the New England Patriots. And I will say this, the Dolphins, to Ray's point, just like the Jets, they have been playing a little better. Maybe they just didn't like Chris Greer. Who knows? But I do know Miami and New York are in very different lanes this season compared to the New England Patriots. And you got to give Drake May all the credit in the world because the guy never makes it about anybody else. And there's balance for this team. And when you hold opponents in 3 straight games to less than 20 points, that is called having stability on both sides of the football. Mike Vrabel was the answer that Robert Kraft has been praying for, and he has been the best possible solution and year number 1 for these New England Patriots. And again, the only reason they are 11-2 is because they got the 2 most important positions in all of football right. They got the right quarterback. They got the right head coach. There is no generational player on defense. No disrespect to Stephon Diggs, who is, again, having a career renaissance. There is no generational player on offense. No disrespect to, Stevenson. No disrespect to Henderson, Diggs, or Hunter Henry. The only star on this team right now is Drake May and their head coach, Mike Vrabel. So when you are a second-year guy, it is not easy to be in full control and command of the locker room. But that is exactly what Drake May has ascended to. And he talked about not just being the vocal point of the offense, but also being the leader of the locker room. Let's take a listen.
He calls it the conductor of the offense. You're trying to be the face of the offense, trying to want the pressure. You want to, the ball in my hands, and I've tried to, show that all year and throughout my career. So, I kind of feel like and know they feed off of me and feed off my energy and feed off of, what I say to those guys and what I say, mean something to them. So just, when adversity hits, I got to respond. And then from there, I just got to be, the same guy, same guy every day. Don't try to change and just be myself. That's what the guys like the most.
Bill Belichick, and I promise this is not a hate on Bill Belichick show, although it may seem like it at times. But then again, he's a curmudgeon and he treats everyone like crap. So kind of what goes around comes around. Bill Belichick, we all know the greatness and we all know the accomplishments, without question, the greatest coach in this particular era in the NFL. But what we also know is that Bill Belichick in year number 1, both in Cleveland and in New England, had losing seasons. And he had a losing season in New England where he had Drew Bledsoe, who was at the time a top 5 quarterback, and they went 5-11. So what Mike Vrabel is able to do, going 11-2 and more than likely finishing with at least 14 wins, how can you not give this guy Coach of the Year? Drake May, what do you think about your head coach?
Man, I think, the awards, I think he'll probably say the same thing. He's, worried about, each and every week, and that stuff will come. But, he's got my vote, and he's got a lot of people's vote. He's got everybody's vote, in this organization and, in that locker room, and I'm sure across the league.
So the one other point I want to make about this game is you'd like to see Jackson Dart not lay his body on the line when he doesn't have to. The Giants are going nowhere. The Giants have no idea who's even going to be their head coach next year. They do see promise in Jackson Dart. It's not lost on me that the guy has 11 passing touchdowns and 3 interceptions. It's not lost on me that he is one hell of an athlete. But there's a time and place for everything. Watch film on Lamar Jackson. Watch film on Steve Young. Watch film on Fran Tarkenton. Watch film on Randall Cunningham. Watch film on Michael Vick. They are able to absolutely get outside and get around the corner and beat the DB and beat the linebacker, but it has to be a calculated risk. It can't be just laying your body on the line every single time. You admire the heart, you admire the guts, you admire the gusto, but Jackson Dart has got to change his style of play if he wants to last. So Jackson Dart, how would you address those that have something to say about adjusting your game as a quarterback?
This is football. Like, I'm
aware.
Get hit if I'm in the pocket or outside the pocket. I've played this way my whole entire life. This shouldn't be like any shocker to anybody if you've followed along with my career. And we're not playing soccer out here. Like, you're gonna get hit, things happen. It's part of the game.
He's had better sound bites than that, Ray. Kind of not necessarily showing his intelligence. Like, is that a little bit condescending, coming out in front of the media and saying, hey, this isn't soccer? Although technically it is football if he's talking about soccer.
No, I think it's just a matter of frustration being at New York. It's such a big media market, and it's been a talking point, granted, of his own doing.
Correct.
But at the same time, I think it comes down to frustrated player losing once again. Came out to shoot really hot, lost some winnable games as well, and now the bottom has fallen out on the season coming off a concussion. I just think this was a matter of frustration and emotions from a young guy who probably knows better, but he wants to be defiant. We were all young men once upon a time. We knew when we were wrong, but most times when we knew when we were wrong, we had to be defiant publicly. But privately, we knew we probably needed to make better decisions.
We still are young men.
Well, younger men in this case.
Okay, well, he's a baby.
Yeah.
He's 22
right.
years old.
He's just being a boy.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I'm not even going to say he's being condescending. I just think I'll call him more defensive than condescending.
By the way, the first 3 starts of his NFL career averaged over 10 carries per game.
That was a crime in itself. I think the bigger story is you had Brian Daboll and Kafka, who got away with murder because Daboll fell on the sword and lost his job. But it was Kafka who's been calling the plays all season.
It's unreal.
It's been this narrative that Brian Daboll was the guy who was making the decisions with Dart. But it's been Kafka the entire time.
Right.
And now he's the interim head coach, and we're still seeing the player get hit. I think the Giants have a bigger issue of players not listening to coaches, especially younger guys. You see what's happening with Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
And apparently that was an issue the entire time. Shane Bowen was one of the worst defensive coordinators I can remember as a Giants fan. You see Kafka not getting through to the playoffs. What's happening with the Giants is organizational. The front office is a little shaky, and the coaching staff is in a situation where they're not connecting to the players.
So we might go about a minute over here, Ray, but look, there's a track record here, right? Daboll, swing and a miss. Had a good year, but that first year, gets to the playoffs, wins against the Vikings, absolutely puts Daniel Jones on the map, gets him that $140 million contract. But overall, he had a very disappointing 4-year run. Pat Shurmur, disappointing run. Joe Judge, very, very disappointing run. Ben McAdoo, very disappointing run. What has been their claim to fame as an organization when they have had success? They hired a coach with what?
Good discipline, great leadership, etc.
And a track record.
But the thing is, Shep, and this is a thing that I want to say about the Giants before you take us a break. The Giants have been kind of fraudulent for a very long time, with the exception of them magooing into 2 Super Bowls. I'm a Giants fan saying this. We magooed into 2 championships.
Right.
The first one,
you can't magoo into a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you can.
You can magoo into a wild card spot.
Hear me out.
Okay.
It is a disrespectful thing to say they magooed their way, but my point is,
right.
Sustained success is an NFL staple of all of the championship teams. We were Cinderellas twice. More so the first time than the second time. I think Eli's second Super Bowl is kind of underrated. That was a good Giants team, great receiving core, but we never sustained excellence. Over the last 30 years of the Giants, they've been a below 500 organization. Crazy. It doesn't matter who you hire if the owners are not directing the ship the way it's supposed to go. We've been living off of past success for so long that people don't know that over the last 30 years, the Giants have been arguably a bottom 5 organization in the NFL.
It's crazy.
And we're seeing it play, especially Tom Coughlin was a great buffer between us and the facts of the matter. But now that Coughlin's out of the way, there's no Eli. This organization is terrible.
Well, to your point, you do have that veteran quarterback and that leadership and that guy that's not texting a former quarterback about where you should go restaurant-wise and fine dining. Eli Manning gave him his number to text him about, I don't know, game strategy and things of that nature. So that kind of shows you Jackson's priorities are a little bit out of whack. But, Ray, you need a guy with a track record and a winning culture up his sleeve. We're going to get into Mike Tomlin. That may be a good fit. Mike McCarthy would be a hell of a fit. listen, I hate what the guy does in his media career, but I got to give respect to John Gruden. I know he did some horrible things when he was with the Raiders in terms of some of the emails back and forth. But if I'm the Giants, I'm giving that a look. The question is that forgivable? Some of the things that he did and some of the emails he distributed and disseminated, that's an argument to be had. Not in New York? Okay, and by the way, there's a Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator that I would give a look to, and Brian Flores.
Yes.
He's got a track record.
I like that.
I would love that. Folks, if there is a particular head coach you have in mind when it comes to the New York Giants that you believe would take this franchise in the right direction, the way that Mike Vrabel has, very curious to hear your thoughts and calls on that. And the question of this hour, when it comes to the AFC, do you have New England as the number 1 seed when it comes to the month of January? I say yes. If not, who? We're taking your calls on that. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. This is The Good Shepherd on the Infinity Sports Network. In for Bart Winkler. We're taking your calls, and there's an interesting message going on right now when it comes to NFL and rookie/sophomore QBs. We'll get to that on the other side. Good Shepherd, Infinity Sports Network. In for my guy, Bart Winkler. We coming right back. Hi, YouTube chat.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
For Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Good Shepherd on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to get aboard is 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. You got Daly taking shots at you, Ray, in our YouTube chat. Daly.
I guess I'll have to go check it out.
Daly says that if you essentially went out there and tried to exercise, you would break yourself in a million pieces. Now, that's not fair.
Well, Daly, I just said that I'm afraid to rupture my Achilles, so I think I know what my limitations are. But, you know, when you put yourself out in this space, in this medium, you're always going to have a random jabroni or two who tries to take a swipe at you. It's okay. I expect it.
It's unreal. It's unreal. Daly, you're better than that. Although Daly believes he can run the TriCaster. He thinks he knows everything, so I'd like to see Daly do that sometime. Let's get back to the phone lines. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We're not just live on 300-plus markets across North America. We're also streaming live on YouTube, so you can certainly interact with us that way. Let's get to Greg in Michigan. Greg, always good to hear from you, Mr. Positive. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, Shep, baby. Thanks for taking my call. Oh, my God, so much to say real quick.
Greg, sorry, I got to cut you off for a second.
Yes.
Brother, I am never mad at you. Like, when you hit me up and you're like, Shep, is there, like, Greg, you are always positive. Now, I will say your last call was the least positive that I've ever heard from you, but how can you blame you after the Lions couldn't convert a fourth down to save their life against the Green Bay Packers?
Right. And I'd be remiss. I have to say this real quick.
Let's hear it.
The Doc of Rock, Doug Podell, who grew up, was with Howard Stern. They were together, is retiring after 50 years, and I've been with him for 35 years, is retiring this Friday. And I know you love Stern, and Podell and him were side by side in the very beginning in Detroit, let me tell you. And a buddy of ours, Stephen A. Smith, is not giving up on the Detroit Lions. I talked to him today.
Oh, he's just being nice. There's no way he believes the Lions are the real deal. Greg, you've seen how bad they've looked in certain spots these last 5 games. The only 2 teams they've beaten were the Giants in overtime, and then the Commanders because Jaden Daniels wasn't suiting up for them. Listen, I want the Lions to win as bad as anybody. I mean, if any fan base deserves a Super Bowl appearance, it's the Bills and the Lions. But I just think the loss of Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn has been too much to overcome.
Oh, Chef, baby. So what you're saying is we're not going to beat Dallas?
Yeah, I am. Now, Dallas isn't a great road team.
Right.
Dallas isn't a great road team, and I will never, ever count out Jared Goff completely. But with that being said, you talk about a team that just beat the AFC champs, that just beat the NFC champs, a.k.a. also the Super Bowl champs, that also completely just lit up the Raiders. And I know it's the Raiders, but Dak Prescott did set a franchise record on Monday Night Football with 4 passing touchdowns. They look like a completely different team. since the passing of one of their own. There's something about that galvanized them, and they're playing for something bigger than just themselves. It just has that feel right now when it comes to Dallas. Because this is the same team that lost to a backup in Jacoby Brissett on Monday Night Football, 4 weeks ago.
Right. And is Dan Campbell, has he hit his apex? Do you think he can change? Do you think he's just so much set in his ways that going on a fourth down, you think?
No, I don't think he's so set in his ways. I think he's been, he's hamstrung this year. You lose 2 quality coordinators. And the truth of the matter is, Jordan Love, he just happened to play the best game that he has played in 2 years. They're still, the Lions are still likely going to make the playoffs. They're 2 games above 500, if memory serves me correctly.
Right.
And I believe they're currently a 7th seed, but they're not going to make a run. They had the opportunity last year, but half of their defense got gutted.
Shep, so what you're saying basically is that Dan Campbell, without Ben Johnson, is not the I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
You know I love you.
Yeah.
Is not the coach that we all think he is in Detroit. I think he's a master motivator. I think he's fantastic, but I think he needs a right-hand man like Ben Johnson, maybe John Gruden. I think he'd be a great fit for us.
So, Greg, I'm gonna Google this man just so I can get the years correct for you. So when Jimmy Johnson came to the Cowboys,
right,
he was exactly the cultural builder and leader and mover and shaker that they needed. But the brains, in my humble opinion, behind the Cowboys winning those first 2 Super Bowls was the offensive genius of Norv Turner. Norv Turner was the offensive heart and soul. Jimmy was the leader. He was the galvanizer. And that's the equivalent of what Ben Johnson meant to Dan Campbell. I don't think Dan Campbell is the best cadence guy. I don't think he's the best schemer. I don't think he's the best X's and O's guy. Now, he walks in a room, you listen to Dan Campbell. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But in terms of having them prepared, like that 4th down that they went on, like, you don't run a draw play. Put someone out in the flat, be creative. Ben Johnson would have been creative, and that was the game right there. When they were down 10 points and they needed a touchdown to kind of make this a 3-point game. Now, granted, they scored a field goal very late, but that was inconsequential. Ben Johnson would not have gone right up the middle with how much that run game was struggling.
Oh my God, Shep, baby, my buddy Chris Cuomo would be so proud of you. You're so cerebral. Hey, Detroit, you're on in Detroit right now. Are you listening? Shep, baby, knows what he's talking about. Love you, Shep. Mr. Positive says, go for your dreams, everybody.
Thanks,
buddy. You're the best.
Thanks,
Bye,
Greg.
Shep.
You're the best, too. Always good to hear from Mr. Positive in Michigan. Rick in Toronto, how you doing? Thanks for your patience. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, first of all, Ryan Tannehill announces his retirement from the NFL on November 12th, 2025.
Okay. Thank you for informing us. Hey, Rick, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, does it really make any noise?
No.
Okay.
I had to. I was on way so long. Okay. I have to say, you talk about soccer. Pittsburgh Riverhounds, they're at least doing better than the Pirates under Bob Nutting. And
yes,
you said it was
so Rick, it says Lane Kiffin mess. So let's try to stick to the topic at hand. What did you want to say about Lane Kiffin? I don't think that has anything to do with Pittsburgh soccer.
Okay, John Vogt, Beaught, is a better coach than Lane Kiffin ever was.
The actor?
No, not John Voight.
Okay.
From 1947 to 1970 and 73, he was a better coach. He won 190 games, 61 and 12 ties. He's the best coach ever at Ole Miss. One of the best coaches at Ole Miss.
We're talking about a lot less teams, and I hear what you're saying. Like no one considers someone like an Adolph Rupp to be a better coach than Bob Knight or Dean Smith, or he had more national titles than both those guys. But
yes, I know.
But he coached in a much different time when there was a lot less competition. Like no one considers John Kunla as good of a coach as Greg Popovich or Pat Riley. All three have 5 NBA titles. But John Kunla coached in an era where there was like 8 teams. So I'm not dismissing
basketball.
Right, but I'm not dismissing John Voight, not to be confused with the actor. but he coached in a very different era where competition was a lot less stiff.
Okay, I get it. Okay. Wait, I have a question. Gotham FC, Roosevelt. I have a question for you. You know, what's his name? Young Kuda, great, couldn't do as good as Roosevelt when she scored the winning goal for Gotham FC.
Yeah, Rick, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm out of my wheelhouse right now. Honestly.
Well, I'm just saying, women's sport in New York is better than men's sports in New York. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Rick. Rick, I tell you what. The next time we talk soccer, I will expect a phone call from you, which will probably be never. No disrespect to Messi and Miami.
I know we're almost finished your show, your career here on Infinity Sports Network when it goes, where. So I know that.
That's a fair point.
All right.
Rick, thank you for the call, buddy. You have a great
Thank you. Have a great day, wherever it is. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Rick. Take care, buddy. That's Rick in Toronto, Marco. Can't make it up.
I've heard him many times.
Can't make it up. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. I'm never going to front this audience. I'm never going to pretend to be somebody I'm not. I am never going to bull shack you. If I don't know something, I'm not going to pretend and look up something and Google quickly. I had no idea what he was talking about. Ray, did you know what he was talking about?
No.
Okay. So I'm not on an island here?
You're on a peninsula.
All right. I'm on a peninsula. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. That's probably something Mike Tomlin wants to be on instead of in front of Steelers fans right now. We'll get to that as well. We'll get to your calls. We will certainly talk about what makes this NFL season so fascinating based on who is atop the AFC. Before we do any of that, and again, get to your phone calls at 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. We're not going to talk Gotham NYC soccer. Maybe another night. Not this particular night. Too much football and basketball to talk about. Before we do anything else, let's get to our latest sports flash. Here is the great Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Shep, after all the smoke cleared, Ole Miss moved up to number 6 in the rankings while getting their offensive coordinator back to coach during the playoffs. Charlie Weiss Jr. will return to Ole Miss for the playoff run before he rejoins Lane Kiffin at LSU. Meanwhile, the latest rankings saw Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, and Oregon as your top 5. Texas A&M fell 4 spots to 7, followed by Oklahoma and Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, and Miami. BYU quick to reward Kalani Sitake with a multi-year extension after he flirted with Penn State. Nittany Lions remain on the look for a new head man after they dismissed James Franklin back in October. Take a look at the NBA. Only one game going. Late in the first quarter, you got the Thunder with a 30-25 advantage on the Warriors. Everything else done is Jaylen Brown at 42. Celtics raced an early 14-point deficit. Topped the Knicks 123-117. Spurs took out the Grizzlies 126-119. Harrison Barnes with 31. Anthony Edwards poured in 44. T-Wolves survived the Pelicans at overtime 149-142. Raptors handled the Blazers 121-118. Scotty Barnes 28. And the Sixers rolled the Wizards 121-102 behind 35 from Tyrese Maxey. College basketball, Kentucky has now taken a 59-58 lead on North Carolina, still 2:37 remaining. Midway through the second half, USC with a 56-52 advantage on Oregon. Everything else done as it was down to the wire with Duke and Florida.
Fland on the left, Boozer there, down to 10 seconds now. It's Condon with 9. 8 seconds to go. Fland on the perimeter, on the right, a double team, he lost it. Foster to Boozer, he's fouled. 2.5 to go. Only the 16 fouls, so no free throws yet. But they get the turnover, and they lead by 1.
Cameron Boozer, 29.6 rebounds. Duke able to withstand Florida, 67-66. Call courtesy of the Blue Devils Radio Network. Rest your scores. Top-ranked Purdue dismissed Rutgers, 81-65. UConn took out Kansas, 81-56. Michigan State rolled Iowa, 72-51. And Syracuse up in Tennessee, 62-60. NFL, Steelers have claimed veteran wide receiver Adam Thielen off waivers from the Vikings. 35-year-old joins a struggling group with a wide receiving core for Aaron Rodgers. Pittsburgh also signed Asante Samuel Jr. from the practice squad and released veteran Darius Slay. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Check out our new and improved website at infinitysportsnet.com. That's infinitysportsnet.com.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This indeed is the Good Shepherd, in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. You can always hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at ShepOnAir. If you can't get through our busy phone lines at 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. And shout out to our YouTube chat. Always great to have some of the usuals and some people that we haven't seen all too often in there. It's just another way to interact with the show, and that's what makes what we do so cool on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, is our audience that we get to interact with, really stand up, really smart, forward-thinking individuals. I believe the best audience in all of sports radio. So you know how I feel about our audience. Let's get to Gilberto in San Diego. Speaking of how I feel about our audience, what's going on, my friend? How you doing, buddy?
Hola, David. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. ¿Y tú?
Well, how do you think I feel after last night's game?
I think you are ecstatic over a team that is not ahead of schedule, leaps and bounds ahead of schedule.
And you know, I follow the Patriots the same way I follow the Dodgers, and I follow the Patriots since the '80s. It couldn't have happened. I mean, if you would have scripted it.
Hey, are you on speaker?
Team. No,
okay,
I'm not.
All right, because you're coming in a little fuzzy, so I just want to make sure we can hear you
I'm
loudly
sorry.
and clearly.
Is that better? Is that better?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. Well, you couldn't have scripted it better. 5 years after Brady left, you get the right quarterback, and now you get the best coach. And what they're doing in New England right now, I know a lot of people do not believe in them because they played whoever is on the schedule, okay? But one of the things that they are doing, they're taking care of business relatively easy, except for a couple of games if they don't beat themselves. And that's what I take away from this Patriot team. They don't beat themselves. They did it twice against the Raiders and against the Steelers, and never again. And that's what Vrabel brings in. I think I told you before, he brought in like 35 new players.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised with the success. I did think they were a team to make the playoffs. I did not think they were going to be that they could be the number one seed.
And Gilberto, what is so important about what the Patriots are doing, and it's why I despise what the Steelers are doing. The reason why Mike Tomlin is on the hot seat, more than any other reason, is that he and the Steelers have tried to have a quick fix at the quarterback position. They've gone after a quarterback because of what they did yesteryear, because of what they did 5, 10, and in Aaron Rodgers' case, nearly 20 years ago. But they're not going after a future prospect. And the Patriots, like you saw them do with Cam Newton, they wanted a quick fix at quarterback. Because Bill Belichick needed to be in the winner's circle, especially after what Brady did.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, it's going to cost Mike Tomlin his job. What the Patriots did was they said, look, we know we're going to be a losing franchise for a little bit, but we got to get the right pick at quarterback. And if it means rebuilding and starting over from scratch, so be it. And they had that philosophy, and it has worked to a T, and they got the right pick. And who would have thought a quarterback coming out of North Carolina, it's not USC, it's not Texas, it's not Ohio State, it's not Michigan. There's not many quarterbacks. Now, listen, Lawrence Taylor and Julius Peppers, we know they're great players from UNC, but I don't know any great quarterback that's come out of UNC, not in my lifetime. And what he has been able to do, Drake May, Gilberto, there is no question in my mind. It's Stafford, it's Dak, it's Drake. Those are the three MVP candidates, in my opinion. I don't think there's anybody else, including Jonathan Taylor.
Now, I have a question for you. Right now, this season, who do you think is doing the best coaching job this season?
Mike, I don't have to think about it. It's the 11-2 Mike Vrabel. It's the guy that started 1-2, that lost to the Raiders, that lost to the Steelers, and has just reeled off 10 wins in a row. I don't think there's a question as to who's the best coach right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've had these conversations with other people, and they say, well, he hasn't won anything, and I keep reminding them, Mike Vrabel is a 3-time Super Bowl champion.
And a 4-time winning season coach with the Titans when no one won with the Titans 4 seasons in a row. I don't even think Jeff Fisher did that.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, he has done a lot without a quarterback, and now he's got the quarterback. And I look for them to really do damage in the playoffs. And my friend, I'm gonna leave you with this, okay?
Yes,
Maybe see if you can get it. Drake, may the force be with you, my friend.
That's not bad. I've heard worse dad jokes. Gilberto, always a pleasure, brother. You have a great rest of your Tuesday, my friend, and we'll talk over the weekend.
Claro que sí, mi amigo. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Tu es amable. Number to join us is 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. It's amazing, folks. It really is. Like, you got 4 MVPs playing in the AFC, all at the quarterback position. 3 of them may not make the playoffs. And the 4 best quarterbacks on planet Earth are all in the AFC. Lamar, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. It is safe to say that it is likely that 3 of those 4 teams are not going to make the playoffs. And the only reason the Ravens are going to make the playoffs is because they play in the haphazard that is the AFC North. That's the only reason why they're going to make the playoffs. Because you got Pitt, you got a Cincinnati team that's been banged up, and then you have the Browns, and we could spend a whole 4 hours talking about why the Browns are their own worst enemy. Although I'm glad they're giving Shedeur Sanders a 3rd straight start. He's earned it, in my opinion. It's going to be a 4th straight start, actually. Even though technically the first one wasn't a start because it was more in relief duty, but it's a start in my book. I'm glad the Browns are being patient with Shedeur. But that's the beauty of the NFL. You would never think to yourself that at this point of the NFL season, in the month of December, the 2 teams atop the AFC, it's not led by Mahomes, not Allen, not Burrow, not Lamar, but a second-year quarterback in Bo Nix, and then right above him, a second-year quarterback from North Carolina in Drake May. A Drake May who went 4 wins last year with New England Patriots. That's the beauty of the NFL. It's different from year to year. It's different from week to week. That's why we talk Cowboys next. And your calls. Shepard for Bart, Infinity Sports Network. We're coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It's the Bart Winkler Show on the Infinity Sports Network. In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This is indeed David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. It is great to be with you, however, and wherever you may be listening from. You could be checking us out on Sirius XM Channel 375. You could be getting us on a local affiliate. You can be at work, like Ray Jarvis and I. However you choose to consume our show, it is always a pleasure to be with you. It is always a pleasure to be filling in for my friend and a good man, Bart Winkler. Something tells me he is still riding high with how the Green Bay Packers played against the Detroit Lions. Shout out to Bart Winkler, by the way. Very funny. One of the funniest hosts we've ever had at the Infinity Sports Network. Number to join us, per usual, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. I want to get back to calls momentarily, but I do want to kind of preview and outline the Dallas Cowboys versus the Detroit Lions. To me, when I think about Detroit, I think about a team that is playing really ineffective football. A team that doesn't know their elbow from their hand when it comes to their personnel. Because there was an opportunity for them to take control of that game against Green Bay. And they completely faltered. They had a horrible play call up the middle where the Packers had stuffed the run game all year. And then an absolute errant throw by Jared Goff at the back hip of Jamison Williams. And he's got to come up with that catch. But the play to make was getting a guy out in the flat because the passing game did have some success. And they just absolutely went up the middle, and it made no sense at all. It essentially cost them the game. And they were down 10 points at that point, and they never, ever really made it close again. That's why I like the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. I look at the way Dak Prescott is playing, but not just the way he's playing, how well he's being protected. That's huge for Dallas because you got a 32-year-old quarterback, and he's still got some mobility in him. Maybe not as much as Ray Jarvis and David Shepard, but he's got some mobility in him still at 32 years old. But what I'm noticing with Dak Prescott is when he has time to make throws and he can stand upright and not have to run for his life, Dak Prescott is as good a thrower of the football as pretty much anybody. And when their season was on life support after that horrendous loss on Monday Night Football to a backup quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, against the Arizona Cardinals, I thought they were done. Might as well stick a fork in them. But what Dak has been able to do these last 2 games, forget what he did against the Raiders, right? Everyone beats the Raiders nowadays. And he did throw for 4 passing touchdowns. Could have been 5 or 6 the way he was rolling. Brian Schottenheimer was smart and called off the dogs. But the fact that the Cowboys and Dak Prescott as an offense are averaging over 340 yards per game against the Chiefs and against the Eagles, and the fact that the defense of the Cowboys, led by Matt Eberflus, is somewhat respectable, I just like the way Dallas has played the last few weeks. It's tough to find a hotter team than the Dallas Cowboys with not just the 3-game winning streak, but who they've been able to beat. And Philadelphia, I mean, it's not a lock that they are going to be champs of the NFC East. It's not a lock that Kansas City is going to even make the playoffs. So the Eagles had everything to play for. The Chiefs had everything to play for. And in both instances, Dak Prescott outdueled both Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. So you got to feel really comfortable with Dallas right now. And you feel like everyone wrote them off, especially at the beginning of the season, when they traded away the best young defensive pass rusher this game has seen in quite some time. I mean, you know the stat at this point. There's no other player in the history of the sport that began a career with 12 sacks in each of their first 5 seasons. Well, Dallas elected to get rid of that guy in Micah Parsons because either Jerry Jones wanted to send a message that fell flat or he was simply thinking rebuild. Because otherwise there is no excuse whatsoever to get rid of that kind of defensive menace and presence. You just don't do it. They don't grow on trees 26, 27-year-old defensive edge rushers that can get 12 sacks in 12 games, which is exactly what Micah Parsons has done. And, folks, we're talking about Lawrence Taylor, Ray Lewis, Deacon Jones, Reggie White, the Minister of Defense, the late, great Reggie White, Bruce Smith. Not one of those guys ever did what Micah Parsons just accomplished in his first 5 years, and you trade away that guy. And for Kenny Clark, Ray, truth serum, did you know who Kenny Clark was before the trade?
No.
Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. I knew the name. I could not pick him out of a 2-person lineup. When the Cowboys made that trade and got 2 first-round draft picks as well, wasn't it obvious that that was Jerry Jones signaling, listen, folks, we may be in rebuild mode?
Yeah, you got to – in the NFL, when you trade a player of Michael Parsons' caliber, there's always like a splash of rebuild. But I don't subscribe to that because it's not like they traded – Dak Prescott.
CD, right.
Or CD, pardon. Right. But I just feel like once you have the quarterback in place, I'm very quarterback friendly when it comes to the NFL. I believe once you have the quarterback in place, anybody else can go as long as you have the quarterback. And I think that when you look at Micah might have misplayed his hand a little bit thinking that the Cowboys maybe wouldn't have traded him.
Sure.
He wants his money. Get your money, Micah. But at the same time, you're not the quarterback.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the Chiefs are finding out the hard way that it just can't be about the quarterback.
I think the Chiefs' issue is not the team.
Well, their defense can't stop its turnstile right now.
Yeah, they let. I think over the last 2 years, the degradation of the defense is that it's a salary cap league and you can't keep everybody. Think about the last Super Bowl, the secondary that they had. They had 2 elite cornerbacks, right, strong linebacker play. The pass rush wasn't the greatest, but they could get by because the back 7 very strong. But I think the issue is their offensive coordinator. The play calling in Kansas City has been terrible. Where's Eric Bieniemy? Is he free? Is he available?
He may be looking like the best of any coach. First
Adam
of all,
Gase is terrible.
Yeah. It's. I mean, you always think it's Kansas City, so it's Andy Reid.
Nah, Gase was calling them plays, man.
It's a disaster.
They've become so safe. They have all of their skill guys back, and they're still dinking and dunking.
But they're and it's crazy because they're not much different than last year. Like the same stars are there, It's just they're losing all these one-possession games, minus that Colts game. They're losing all these one-possession games, and they should have beat Denver without question. They absolutely should have beat the Bills. The Bills always seem to get them and best them in the regular season. They had, and listen, I love
Jaguars
Dallas
as well. They blew that game.
Oh, I mean, Trevor Lawrence fell on his ass and still got up and scored. Like, that's just ridiculous. And I mean, are we going to send a watch party out for Chris Jones? What has happened to that guy?
He's full, man. 3 rings, a bunch of Super Bowl appearances, a bunch of conference championship appearances.
Sure.
It's inevitable. It's the disease of me that Phil Jackson called it.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happened to successful players is success. Over time, you just can't find that motor anymore. Once you're full, you got to leave the buffet.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I'm not used to seeing individuals that are as hungry as Patrick Mahomes, as hungry as Travis Kelce, who, to his credit, isn't playing like the guy that just got engaged 3 months ago. Is playing like the guy that's more concerned with being a football player than Taylor Swift's fiance.
Absolutely. I would say year over year, he looks more like Travis Kelce this year,
without question,
than he did last year.
Oh, without question. And you want to talk about the disease of more, Ray. You want to talk about a guy that has the world by the fingertips. I mean, my God, he's got. I mean, in all seriousness, like if he gave up football, he doesn't have to work another day in his life. If he separated from Taylor Swift, and I hope that doesn't happen, and I know people do not want that to happen, it would be like a royalty, separating. But Ray, this guy is a star. He's an SNL star. He's on there every other month, I feel like, at least if not him playing a part, at least them mentioning him. The guy has one of the most popular, most recognizable, most notoriable sports podcasts there is in New Heights. Travis Kelce, whenever he retires, I mean, he could essentially usurp anyone on any network. Now, I don't know if he could do that as an analyst, but, I mean, he's first tier. Like, you know how, like, with Fox, like, and I love Julian Edelman, I love Charles Woodson, and in Charles Woodson's case, he's an all-time great defender, but he wasn't a big enough name, believe it or not, because he played on the defensive side of the ball, and he wasn't Ray Lewis, and he wasn't a larger-than-life personality like Michael Strahan.
Did his job.
Yeah, exactly. But he got the second-tier prize. He should be on the main desk, but he's on FS1. There's no shame in that. But there's certain guys, Rob Gronkowski, right? J.J. Watt, even though J.J. Watt's in the booth now, he used to be an analyst. Those guys retire, they're not getting on FS1. They're not getting on ESPN2. They're not getting on CBS Sports Network. And CBS Sports Network is an incredibly prized possession. It's great programming, but it's not CBS.
Travis Kelce, I won't say he's a Tom Brady level free agent in the media space.
He might be.
But he'll be up there as far as whatever price tag. He could probably name his price as far as whatever network if he chooses to do so once he retires.
Ray, before we get back to calls, look at everyone in the NFL. Look at all the guys who are going to potentially retire the next 10 years. Now, let's put Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes into that conversation, even though Mahomes has hinted he wants to play until his 40s. Is there another NFL player that's going to make more of a splash in the media game than Travis Kelce?
If not Travis Kelce, believe it or not, I think Russell Wilson might be a guy you got to keep your eyes on.
Wait. I'm sorry. Russell Wilson, the guy that gets booed out of every other stadium because people hate his guts and people are jealous of him because of his wife?
Hear me out.
Yes.
He's been positioning himself as a media darling for a cool 10 years now.
It's backfired.
And now he's in New York. And listen, our guy Tiki Barber has shown that you can get booed out of venues and still have a pretty strong media career. Sometimes there's baby faces and there's heels. Maybe Russell Wilson could be the healer that believes he's the baby face and get a great media gig somewhere. I'd like to hear him talk some X's and O's as a color guy on CBS or Fox or Amazon or wherever else they're streaming NFL games.
Yeah, but Tiki is likable. Russ ain't likable. Now,
you don't think so?
No.
I think Russ is likable. I think he's misunderstood.
I don't think Ray.
Let's ride.
Ray, the guy went to Denver and wanted his own suite. Okay?
He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. What's the problem?
So is Trent Dilfer. So is Brad Johnson.
These guys are bums in comparison to Russell Wilson.
Listen, in fairness, I will give you that. Like, there's no question in my mind. Russell Wilson went to Seattle. He didn't win because the defense carried him. Like, he was the difference maker.
Yeah.
But you and I both know this.
Yeah.
That Malcolm Butler interception, Ray.
It's a bad ball.
He was never quite the same after that errant decision and throw. Would you agree on that?
100%.
He was never quite the same.
The sports gods frown on poor decisions.
Yeah.
That ball was supposed to go to beast mode, and none of those guys individually,
right,
including Pete Carroll, have been the same since.
Ray, I got one more thing for you, though, and then we'll take a call and take as many calls as possible before we hand it over to Pat Boyle in 2 hours. Richard Sherman, he doesn't seem to have anything good to say about him, okay? Like, it's amazing. Forget the fans. Forget the media. His own teammates, I mean, they take shots at him left and right. When Tony Gonzalez was out there for everyone to see, I've never seen any Hall of Famer talk about, and listen, say whatever you want about Russ. There's an argument to be made about his Hall of Fame candidacy. I'm not saying he's going to get in. There's an argument to be made. He's in the Matt Ryan. Matthew Stafford has jumped over that at this point.
He's in that Eli Manning window where there's an argument for and against.
Of course. Phillip Rivers finds himself in that argument right now. Frank Gore, even though he started all time in rushing yards, he finds himself in that argument. There's it seems like every other receiver that should be in the Hall of Fame, but because they're receivers, they don't get the love of being a Hall of Famer. Like Steve Smith Sr., somebody like I know Bruce is in, but someone like a Torrey Holt who's been waiting. I think
he should be in.
Torrey Holt should be in, but there's an argument to be made either way. I think there's an argument to be made for Chad Ochocinco, if I'm being honest. An argument.
Is an argument.
But my point is, when is the last time a Hall of Famer on live television, on national live television, mind you, came out and made such a case against somebody being a Hall of Famer that's in a conversation to be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, points made. And I think the real issue
players hate him.
And I'll tell you what I think happened with Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
The Legion of Boom is what brought the Seattle Seahawks to national prominence. And the minute they became the boutique organization of the NFL, the prime time, preeminent organization of the NFL, all of the praise and adulation started to be heaped on Russell Wilson when it was a defense that got him to the dance in the first place. And I think some of the guys, and mainly Sherman, have been salty and have even suggested that the reason they didn't give the ball a beast mode in the Super Bowl is because the coach wanted to ensure that Russell Wilson got Super Bowl MVP for that game against the Patriots. So it's been a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of bitter energy towards Russell because he kind of usurped the credit that the Legion of Boom deserves. We don't talk about Cam Chancellor anymore. What's Earl Thomas up to?
Right. Bobby Wagner.
What's Bobby Wagner? We've almost forgotten he was a linchpin. He was in the middle of that defense. Right. What was it? Cedric Maxwell was another cornerback that was part of that
Malcolm
group.
Smith.
Oh,
by the way, no, you want to stump someone in trivia, Ray? Ask someone who won the MVP for the Seattle Seahawks when they won the Super Bowl. No one will be able to give you that name. He's like the 10th guy you would give the Super Bowl MVP to. It's like Larry Allen with the Cowboys.
There you go. So I think that him getting so much credit for that run when it wasn't a quarterback-driven team,
right,
ruffled a lot of feathers.
That's fair. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Let's get to Johnny in Atlanta. Johnny, I know you've been waiting for a long time, brother. Go ahead, man. Always good to hear from you.
What's going on? I was just calling about the Lane Kiffin situation.
Okay.
I'm the type of person that I'm not mad at him for leaving because only people should be mad at him for leaving is people for Ole Miss. Everybody else shouldn't even care because y'all ain't make a big deal when all those coaches get fired halfway through the tenure and everything else. He made a business decision to pretty much. He did 6 years at Ole Miss. He got the Ole Miss from to where they should be, and he said, "Okay, time for me to go." And everybody mad at him for doing that. What did he do wrong besides make an organization a winning organization again, and left to do something else?
What he did wrong was, I believe, he went against the cardinal rule in sports, which is quitting on a team in the middle of the season. That's what he did wrong, Johnny.
Yeah, whether he said he wanted to continue coaching them.
Yeah, but Johnny, this is where he's got to be smarter. This is where wisdom has to prevail. He understands the landscape of college football. He understands that the second he makes it known to the general public, and the second there is a contract signed, when there is pen to paper, and he is going to another team, another organization, another program, that is when that particular school that he's already at is going to say, sayonara. You're not going to make the situation even worse by trying to poach and trying to convince and persuade guys to come with you. So you get where the other program in Ole Miss is coming from. If I'm Lane Kiffin, listen, those rumors can hang over my head all season. I'm not committing and saying yes until my job is done in Ole Miss. You know, Johnny, there is no good that comes from a coach getting a team to the highest of highs they have been as a program and then leaving them high and dry in the middle of the season. That's not the way any of us wanted to see this drawn up.
Well, but that's how it is. All right, so same thing with the Penn State coach. Penn State, he got fired for that coach. He got another coach
which was a mistake.
So,
which was a mistake. No, James Franklin is coming out looking like roses right now. They fired him. They look worse. No, John, listen. I'm with, I think, in my opinion, I'm not a big Brian Kelly fan. I thought he got a raw deal. I do. I thought they should have let him finish out the season. He wasn't great. He wasn't as great as he was in Notre Dame, but he wasn't terrible. But they had a really rough 3-game stretch. And because of the way college football is set up, specifically, and college sports in general, but college football specifically, how much they bend over for these donors and boosters and deep pockets. They get rid of coaches because so-and-so has a direct line to an AD or a chancellor or a president and says, I am not going to continue to give you all this financial backing if you are going to continue to put this coach out there. And you know what? ADs and chancellors and presidents are spineless the same way that Lane Kiffin is. Now, to your point, Johnny, to your point, I agree with you. We don't spend the same energy going after presidents and ADs when they make a business decision in the middle of the season to get rid of a coach for whatever reason. But Lane Kiffin is a very famous sports figure. He is someone that is very much in the mainstream media in terms of how much he's discussed, how much he's talked about. We saw that documentary come out. It was like a 2-hour special on the redemption and 180 of Lane Kiffin. So he's a public figure. So when you are a public figure, you're going to get more attention, notoriety, right? That's why he's getting so much attention right now, because this isn't a Joe Schmo. This is one of the top 10 coaches in all of college football.
I agree with you. He is one of the top 10 coaches. What's his name? I'm not mad he left because guess what? Either two things are gonna happen. Either they're gonna fire him when they get on the downslide, or he's gonna leave. And the same thing will happen in LSU. He's gonna get fired like Chip Kelly, or he's gonna leave him for the NFL.
Brian Kelly. Yes.
Yeah, Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly.
No, but Johnny,
he's trying to get back.
Johnny,
he's trying to get back to the NFL.
Johnny, I want to be very clear about this. I got no issue with him making a business decision. If you want to improve your stock elsewhere, if you believe another institution has better resources, has better personnel, has better infrastructure, by all means do it. My problem is how he went about the business decision. You want to make a business decision?
That's
go for
NCAA.
it. Okay, so both parties should be held accountable. I'm with you on that. But in this particular conversation, Lane Kiffin has a lot of growing up to do as well.
I don't think he had he made a business because guess what? He tried to get in there for the transfer portal.
Yeah,
but you can't get mad at him about that.
But if I'm Lane Kiffin, I want to be able to show up to my next program saying, "Hey, I won a national championship. I was competing in a college football playoff." He doesn't have to say that now to the recruits in living rooms. And by the way, don't think twice. There's going to be somebody where he is in the living room of a family and he is speaking to that family, and that family is saying to them, "Well, Lane, you can promise this. You can promise everything till the cows come home. Did you not just bail on the team that you gave your word to? Why should we trust you with my son?" So that is backlash he's going to have to endure, Johnny.
Last day, what's his name? How y'all down him, but praise Dion when he left Jackson State and took his players.
Well,
same thing.
No, not the same thing. He didn't leave them high and dry, and he made them nationally relevant. And Colorado came calling, and he did finish out the season, at least in my opinion. Johnny, great to hear from you as always, buddy.
Right.
You have a good rest of your Tuesday. Thank you, man. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We got a lot of people still on hold. We're going to get to all your calls on the other side. This is the Good Shepherd in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. If you can't get through at 888-710-4ISN, that is 888-710-4476. You can always hit us up in our YouTube chat. You can hit me up at Shep On Air, whether it be Twitter or Instagram. Great to be filling in for Bart, my guy, and we are coming right back. Hi, YouTube chat.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Good Shepherd in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We'll get to Mike Tomlin at the top of the hour, Ray and I were going back and forth about who should be the next Giants head coach because we saw New England, who got the hire right, who knew Mike Vrabel was going to be the answer. Tennessee had no business whatsoever of getting rid of Mike Vrabel. We know the guy won 4 straight seasons in Tennessee, which is like winning 30 straight seasons in New England or San Francisco. He made Ryan Tannehill look like a respectable quarterback. He made Tennessee respectable. So New England made, without question, the best coaching hire in the offseason. And Drake May has absolutely come into his own in year number 2. But what did New England do that was so smart? They hired a coach, not just with ties when it came to the New England Patriots franchise, a winner of 3 Super Bowls as a player, but somebody that had a track record as a head coach. The Giants, whether it's Pat Shurmur, Ben McAdoo, Joe Judge, the latest example, Brian Daboll, they took risks on all 4 of these coaches with no head coaching track record other than Pat Shurmur in Cleveland, but that was nothing to brag about because he was an afterthought there, as are most coaches in Cleveland, unfortunately. So the Giants need to go with what I believe is a surefire lock. And you want to talk about locks? If the Steelers are stupid enough to get rid of Mike Tomlin, they absolutely make that call. If it's not Mike Tomlin, you got another Super Bowl winning head coach in Mike McCarthy who's out there that should be a head coach for some franchise. That would be the Giants' best bet. Marshall in Milwaukee, always good to hear from you. What do you believe the Giants' best bet should be at head coach?
Yes, I'll get to that, but I'll just give a quip out here. How about them Heels in Rupp Arena tonight?
I
pretty
wasn't
happy.
Okay. So, how did Caleb Wilson look?
I caught only parts of it, but I know he got 21 points. He had a key free throw at the end. They hung on for a 3-point win, and even though they weren't making their free throws consistently, they did enough to hang on and played great defense down the stretch.
Yeah, so Caleb Wilson. So I know he was the first, correct me if I'm wrong, Marshall, but he was the first freshman ever in UNC Tar Heel history with 5 straight double-digit performances, right?
Yep.
And that's pretty remarkable. Okay, he didn't play great, but he did enough. And wow, that's not a good look for Mark Pope, by the way. This was
No.
Man, the Wildcats are struggling. 3rd loss. We're in early December and they've already lost 3 times. Damn, they're going to be wanting John Calipari to come back after this.
Yeah, it's that's the case, but 7-1. I think we're going to do fine going forward, and it's a big win. And here's hoping for a tremendous season ahead and better health too. Hopefully, good health.
Yes,
that's the key.
All the way around, Marshall. So Marshall, if it's not Hubert Davis, who should be the next head coach of the New York Giants?
The Giants. Yeah. I do want to talk about the Giants because you and Ray's analysis of the Giants was right on, and I've got relatives in Westchester County and further north, just north of you guys, and that are Giant fans. So when I talk to them and visit, we talk Giants a lot, and it's been amazing that you made the great point that Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning, how history just it's amazing how history shows greatness and shows glory the more the time passes, and that was really the thing that saved them from being 30 years in the wilderness, which we Packer fans, and I saw some of the old era between, as I call it, between Lombardi, whom I was too young to remember very much,
right,
and Mike Holmgren, Reggie White, and Brett Favre. We were in the wilderness for a long time. Thankfully, I wasn't living in this state part of that time, but the Giants, without that, would be exactly that right now. And I think a lot of the names you've put out there are tremendous, and I've always admired the Maras and the Tisches who have ran that.
Absolutely,
but they've struggled. They've not had their better times of late, and I think right now, obviously Tomlin, if they're stupid enough to get rid of him, is maybe number one on that list. there are many, many others out there, many coordinators that probably could take over. But they need, you're right on, they need a name. They've tried all these retreads and first timers, and it just has not worked. And it's not the people, it's just that, some people, we see it all the time in sports. Everybody can't be the head guy.
Yes.
And I always tell people there's only 32 of them in the NFL on the planet, and not everybody's cut out for that.
And Marshall, there's 32 of them on the planet, and 20 of those 32 are gone within 5 years or less. So it is. Listen, this is a what have you done for me lately business. Coaching is one of the most demanding, most difficult, most gut-wrenching fields. No, it is not meant for the weak. I mean, Marshall, listen, we talk about how much pressure there is on a player, but players are the last to go. The coaches, well, outside of ownership, of course, the coaches are always the first to go. And these are coaches that are setting up cots to stay over at the stadium just so they can have a leg up over there. Yeah, I mean, these coaches, they're putting in 18, 19, 20-hour days, 7 days a week for 6 straight months. And then that, not to get into how much work they're doing in the off season. And you never have an off season in the NFL. So I'm with you, Marshall. At this point, their best bet, go with someone that has a track record, that has a resume, and why not go with someone that understands this NFC East division quite well in Mike McCarthy, that would have a good leg up going against his former Dallas Cowboys team, that understands the Philadelphia Eagles, that knows what it's like to play Washington. Not that he has a lot of experience playing Washington, because they're a completely different team when they do have a healthy Jaden Daniels. But if I am the New York Giants, stop going with these disciples. Stop going with these up-and-coming, hot, market coaches because they're in the press for the next guy. Go with the former guy. Go with the guy that is proven. You can say whatever you want about Bill Parcells. I'm not bringing him up because I happen to love tuna, Marshall. I'm bringing Bill Parcells up because every single place he went to. Now, he didn't exactly stay the longest because he eventually will wear out his welcome. That was well documented.
Right.
But he will make that organization significantly better. Marco, tell me if you disagree with this. Bill Parcells, in the last 30 years, when it comes to the New York Jets organization, I know Rex Ryan did some good things too, making back-to-back AFC title games. There is not a more successful coach in the history of the New York Jets, at least in the last 30 years, than Bill Parcells. I don't think there's an argument to be made otherwise.
There's not. And the only reason they had some of the success that they had after he left was because he put him in the right position when he walked away.
100% agree. And Marshall, listen, we do not have the New England Patriots dynasty if it's not for Bill Parcells. He laid the groundwork and the foundation for everything that was to come. Look at all the guys he brought in. Troy Brown, Lawyer Malloy, Drew Bledsoe, even though Drew Bledsoe was only really significant in that Super Bowl run, at least in the first year, because of what he was able to come in and do in the AFC Championship in relief duty. He set the foundation. Mike McCarthy is a proven winner. You know about Mike McCarthy so well as a Packers fan. Get Mike McCarthy to New York. Yeah. And listen, if it's not for special teams blowing up the Packers in that 2014 NFC title game, they're playing for their second Super Bowl. They had no business losing that game to Seattle. That wasn't Mike McCarthy.
Oh, do you have to remind me of that game? That is one of the most, I would say, as a Packer fan all these years and decades, that has to be the number one. I mean, I was crushed after that one. This whole state was crushed.
I know. I don't feel bad for you because the Pittsburgh Steelers have had one really good quarterback for the last 40 years. You guys have had one really good quarterback for the last 35.
Well, that the thing about that game too, I always remind people, but we were only up 16-0 at halftime.
Right.
If we had done better in the red zone, it's 24-zip, and the game is on ice at that point. There were a lot of things that happened in that game, and then it came down to what it came down to, and Russell Wilson, who's been a nemesis, save for 1 year in Madison, in my college with my college football and pro football. He the guy, you can have your opinions on him. All I know is he's been a nemesis. He's a great player, but boy, he's been a thorn in my side for a long time.
Was a great player. You could never throw great in front of Russell Wilson in these last few years, whether it's Seattle, Denver, Pittsburgh, or New York.
No.
Marshall, always a pleasure, brother. We will talk over the weekend, my friend.
Yeah, we'll talk over the weekend, and maybe we'll put a bow on a very tough situation in Chapel Hill in that other sport. But right now,
thank God we're not talking about him.
I'm riding high tonight, at least, with the win over Kentucky.
And a 3-point win at that, 7-1. Caleb Wilson, not shooting his best, but getting the job done. Marshall, you always get the job done when you call our busy program at 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. Marco Belletti, before we get to your sports flash, you are John Mara. Who is the first call you are making to become the next Giants head coach?
I got to wait this out, Shep, because I got to be fair. The first call I'm making is a guy that's still employed.
Pittsburgh?
Mike Tomlin.
Okay.
That's the guy.
Over.
There's no one else that's even in the conversation.
Mike McCarthy's not in the conversation?
Not over Tomlin, no.
Wow.
Not for what the Giants need. Not for what the Giants need. If you want to do is Tomlin a better coach than Mike McCarthy, you can have that argument. You guys can sit there and try to figure it out and go over the one Super Bowl, but then the other appearance, and he's 6 more games over 500, and whatever the hell you want to do. For where the Giants are, for the guy that needs to walk in the room and take control and take command, it is Mike Tomlin.
He's better for Jackson Dart than Mike McCarthy?
100%.
Wow.
Because he needs to fix the entire room. This is not about one player. Dart is going to be part of their future and what they need to be able to take them to the promised land. And as much as everybody wants to put it as well, as long as you find the good offensive mind that works with the quarterback, really? Because Brian Dable's actually a really good offensive mind. Worked really well with Jackson Dart. Where the hell were they?
Right.
It's not as simple as that.
Well, fourth quarter collapses where they were.
They've lost the essence of what it is to be an entire team. They've lost the 53-man roster. They've lost the culture. They've lost all of it. It is completely eroded since Tom Coughlin has left the building, and they have not been able to figure it out.
I agree.
They've tried it with a bunch of different guys. They've done it a bunch of different ways. A retread in Pat Shurmur, a new coordinator in Brian Dable. Ben McAdoo was there. He was a leftover. They've done it all. They figured Tomlin. He walks in the door. He knows exactly what to do. He can change the feel and the vibe, and he can get a defense to actually play to their potential. Everything else, he would have to hire the right offense coordinator. It's got its flaws. Nothing is perfect.
Right.
Tomlin's the perfect guy for the Giants.
And he'll have something he hasn't had in Pittsburgh, and that is an actual quarterback for the future. He has not had that since Ben Roethlisberger. Kenny Pickett was not the answer. We certainly know Mason Rudolph's not the answer.
No,
Mike Tomlin hasn't had that in 7 years.
And you know what? He had Roethlisberger for most of his career.
Yes.
And he had the prime of Roethlisberger. And they won the one title, and it was a long, long time ago.
And almost won the second title.
I get all of that. But again, whether it's not just the Dart thing for me, because look, Tomlin doesn't come in and call the plays, so he's going to have to bring an offensive coordinator in, and a good one. And he's probably going to, if the Giants do well, he's going to leave in 2 years. He's got to do it again and again and again and again and again. I get all that. I get all that. Tomlin would be the first one to control the room since Coughlin left that room.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. It's really well said, Marco. I think a lot of people would want Mike Tomlin as the head coach for the New York Giants, at least someone who brings them instant credibility, to Marco's point, something they have not had in a decade since Tom Coughlin left them. Not left them, but was more shown the door. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We will get to all your calls on the other side. When we get to the top of the hour, we will talk about the situation right now between Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Should he go? Should he stay? What's best for the franchise? What's best for Tomlin? We'll get into all that. But before we do anything else, let's get to our latest sports flash with the aforementioned Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Chef, the selection committee did not think the loss of Lane Kiffin was enough to drop Ole Miss in the rankings. Matter of fact, the Rebels jump up a spot to 6th due to the loss to Texas A&M, who tumbled to 7th. Ohio State remains on top, followed by Indiana and Georgia. Texas Tech now moves into the 4th spot. Oregon's at 5. We got Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame rounding out the top 10. BYU's 11. Miami holds a 12th spot. Ole Miss also got back a familiar face as Charlie Weiss Jr. will return to Ole Miss to serve as the offensive coordinator through the college playoff run before he joins Lane Kiffin at LSU. Penn State apparently back to the drawing board. BYU's Kalani Sitake has turned down the Nittany Lions. He returns to BYU. Also gets himself a multi-year extension to do so. One game still going in the NBA. We're in the third quarter. The Thunder a 75-64 advantage on the Warriors. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's got 24 already. Everything else is done as the T-Wolves down by as many as 15, but Anthony Edwards helped lead the charge.
Randall will trigger in. The Wolves are down by 2, 129-127. Inbound to Ant. He holds against Alvarado. Right-handed dribble into the paint to the rim. The layup good with 2.3 seconds left. The Wolves have tied the game at 129.
44 points in all for Anthony Edwards. T-Wolves survived the Pelicans 149-142 in overtime. Call courtesy of the T-Wolves Radio Network. Elsewhere, the Celtics erased the Knicks 123-117 behind 42 from Jaylen Brown. Spurs took out the Grizzlies 126-119. Harrison Barnes at 31. Sixers roll the Wizards 121-102. Tyrese Maxey 35. And the Raptors handle the Blazers 121-118. Scotty Barnes 28. College hoops, Duke able to withstand Florida 67-66. They got 29 points and 6 rebounds from Cameron Boozer. Top-ranked Purdue dismissed Rutgers 81-65. UConn took out Kansas 61-56. Michigan State rolled Iowa 72-51. North Carolina withstood Kentucky 67-64. Syracuse upended Tennessee 62-60. And USC, they bounced Oregon 82-77. NFL, Steelers claiming veteran wide receiver Adam Thielen off waivers from the Vikings. They also signed Asante Samuel Jr. from their practice squad, and they released veteran cornerback Darius Slay. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Good Shepherd on the Infinity Sports Network. Great to be with you on this 1 a.m. Eastern Time hour. We're about to be there. What's it called? Somebody asked in the chat, Ray, are you running for president? Can you confirm or deny?
I cannot confirm or deny.
Okay. Fair enough. Daly and Syke, man, they ask a lot of questions about you. So they're very curious people.
Yeah, well, it's been a while since I've been on the Infinity YouTube, so maybe they want to catch up.
No kidding. Well, it's funny because they do a great job with Carl. When the next show is on YouTube, like at the way beginning, I always hear your voice because you and Carl do a great job of going back and forth. So you're on YouTube whether you know it or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know. And there's a star floating over both our heads. And Ray is a star. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Let's get to Lou in Rochester. Lou, it's been a minute, man. How you been?
Hey, Dave. Good, man. I hope your Thanksgiving was awesome.
You too, Lou.
Thanks. Listen, I wasn't going to get dragged into the Tomlin thing, but, man, that would be the worst hire for the Giants.
It wouldn't be the worst hire. It definitely wouldn't be the worst hire. But right now,
who's his current coordinator? Arthur Smith. Who was a couple of years ago Matt Canada? What do they do? They like to run the ball. Dart has serious potential to be a pretty good quarterback. I think
agree.
He's going to be better than May. But anyways, you were going to comment?
No, I look, to Marco's point, the Giants, they're, I don't want to say reckless, but they lose a lot of games that they give away. And right now, like I listened to Brian Dable, and you can just tell he was just defeated. He was deflated. He had no answers left. He had no solutions. He was done. You can tell Mike Tomlin's resolute is a lot stronger than most coaches. Now, I will say this. I do think it is time for the Steelers and Tomlin to part ways. And I'll get into that more in the next hour. But it's one of those situations, Lou, where both are going to come out winners. The Steelers are going to get a new voice after 19 years. And Mike Tomlin is going to have an even better second act than his first act. You know who it reminds me of?
Who?
Andy Reid.
I'm not sure. Reid's an offensive coach. No, I just don't.
But he
like
maximized. But he
defensive
maximized.
coaches.
He was an offensive coach, but he maximized his time in Philadelphia. They weren't going to get over that ceiling with Andy Reid. That's the point. And while he was an offensive coach, for nearly the first 20 years of his career, he didn't have a Super Bowl win to speak of. But come along Patrick Mahomes to the party, and they get to 5 Super Bowls and win 3 of them. And Mike Tomlin has never had anyone, except for Ben Roethlisberger, that you can consider a franchise quarterback. He gets all these guys at the tail end. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has looked every bit of the soon-to-be 42 years old that he is. He was awful against the Buffalo Bills.
They still might win the division if they beat
Which is crazy. I'm with you, Lou. But trust me, you could do a lot worse than Mike Tomlin.
Look, I got one more thing. All right, Kafka was insufferable last night. I mean, he didn't open up the playbook for Dart at all.
Yep.
He punted on 4th and 1. He punted on 4th and at the end of the half, 4th and 6, within like 15 points.
Yeah, I'm with you. And listen, it's 30. It was 37 at halftime. The Giants aren't going anywhere. You might as well go for broke. I'm with you. You're not playing at home. You're playing on the road, so you're absolutely not expected to win against the NFL's best New England Patriots, who were 10-2 at the time. I'm with you. It would have been nice to have seen it take more risk.
Final point.
Right.
Final point, because you're cerebral. He failed to challenge that 3rd touchdown for New England. It was clearly out because the ball wasn't in possession with the first.
Lou, sorry. I'll answer that on the other side. Carter, sorry to catch you short, buddy, but we're up against it. You have a great rest of your morning, okay, sir?
Sure, you too.
Thanks, Lou. Good to hear from you in Rochester. I'll address that on the other side. I'll also get into Mike Tomlin versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, because there seems to be more animosity than harmony. We get to that next. Good Shepard in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. We coming right back. We got another hour to go.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It's the Bart Winkler Show on the Infinity Sports Network. In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Good Shepherd in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to join us is 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. It's a pleasure to be with you, however and wherever you may be listening from. We're going to get to all your calls this hour. We've spoken in great length about Lane Kiffin to LSU, the Ole Miss reaction, the LSU anticipation. We have spoken in great detail about the Thursday night football game we are going to see tomorrow between the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions, two franchises going in complete opposite directions. We have certainly talked about at great length what has taken place in the AFC hierarchy. The New England Patriots, top of the class in the AFC, with a second-year quarterback and a first-year head coach in Mike Vrabel, not in the NFL, but at least with this respective franchise, even though he's got ties to New England for quite some time and a great resume as a player. Unbelievable job from both him and May. Mike Vrabel, without question, to me, the front runner for Coach of the Year. You like the fact that they are going to essentially run the table the rest of the way. They may very well finish the season winning 13 of their last 14 games, and they may very well win 14 straight. Again, Buffalo in their next game in New England. You got Ravens, who you don't know what to expect from week to week. And then you got two essential buys in the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets, divisional foes that you have had no issue with this year whatsoever before. And also, I highly encourage anyone to check out this YouTube chat. It's another way to interact, get involved with the show. Ray, you are blowing up in this chat. I'm not like joshing you or giving you any hyperbole. They're coming up with like different theories of like what Ray Jarvis is going to look like on Westwood One, what Ray Jarvis is going to look like if he were to go fishing, if he were to do activities in Central Park. This is like taking over the chat, Ray.
Yeah, they're trolling. I appreciate it. It's some good comedy.
Are you seeing this? Are you witness to this at all?
I'm going to go take a peek. I saw the last time you mentioned it, I took a peek and then I saw the culprits, but I appreciate it. I've done similar things.
They say you wrestled a bear in Central Park and a grizzly bear at that.
Well, I wrestled Zangief in Street Fighter once. I don't know if that counts as a bear in the Russia stage, but that's about it.
Psych Mampter believes that you once won $400,000 at an Atlantic casino, and apparently you like fish sticks. I don't know what that's about.
One of those things are true, but I won't confirm or deny which.
Okay. Well, if it's the first thing, Ray, I haven't been nice enough to you if that's the case. Let's just put it that way. We're going to get back to your phone calls momentarily. We are going to discuss the Mike Tomlin saga with Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This has been a tale of two seasons. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers were awesome, absolutely awesome for the first 5 games of this year, going 4-1. The problem is they have gone 2-5 ever since. And that's what you sign up for when you are possessing a 40-something-year-old quarterback, when he is your QB number 1. And Aaron Rodgers has been taking too many hits. He doesn't have nearly the same mobility, doesn't have the same pocket presence, doesn't have the sheer athleticism that he used to have. And this just makes you appreciate Tom Brady so much more. Now, while the last year Tom Brady had at 45 was not one of his better years, age 44, he was the runner-up MVP. Age 43, completely turned things around in Tampa, ends up being the Super Bowl MVP. But it just goes to show you that when you get north of 40 as a starting quarterback, it usually doesn't end well, despite how well it starts. And Aaron Rodgers was the media darling for the first 5 weeks of the NFL season. He couldn't do any wrong in Pittsburgh. The only loss came to Seattle, and that wasn't on the offense. Well, they have struggled mightily ever since, and Aaron Rodgers looked as bad as he has looked all year against the Buffalo Bills, completing less than 50% of his passes. Him and his receivers were not in simpatico. They were not on the same wavelength whatsoever against the Buffalo Bills. And they got smacked around at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, obviously, 26-7 in a game that essentially they're going to need if they want to come out on top in this AFC North and hold court against the Baltimore Ravens, because that's the only way both teams are getting into the playoffs, whoever wins this AFC North. And here's the dilemma. Mike Tomlin has been an outstanding football coach. 19 years. And 18 of those first 19 years, he has never had a losing season. That's an NFL record. No coach has come close to having that kind of run to start an NFL head coaching career. And in all likelihood, I think he ends up extending that record for 19 seasons. But here's the problem. If this were the Cincinnati Bengals, no disrespect, Ohio. If this were the Cleveland Browns, again, no disrespect, Ohio, they would be more than content with what Mike Tomlin has done. 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl, 8 playoff wins, the 11th winningest head coach in the history of this league. But the problem is it's not Cleveland. It's not Cincinnati. It's Sixburg, a.k.a. Pittsburgh, the first team to win 6 Super Bowls in NFL history. The standard is high in Pittsburgh. So just making the playoffs ain't going to cut it. Mike Tomlin is 3-9 in his last playoff games. His last playoff win came when Ray Jarvis and I were almost in our 20s. And that was 9 years ago. 9 years ago is the last time Mike Tomlin won. Forget making any noise in the playoffs. Won a single postseason game. That ain't going to cut it. Now, in fairness to Mike Tomlin, whether it be Kenny Pickett, whether it be Mason Rudolph, whether it be, someone like a Mitch Trubisky, the soon-to-be 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't have a star quarterback anymore. He hasn't had one since the glory days of Ben Roethlisberger. And so I don't care how great of a coach you are, it is next to impossible to have any kind of consistency and success in this league without that franchise-altering quarterback. You can be Mike Vrabel and make a good run or two with Ryan Tannehill. Man, he's come up a lot on the show tonight and this morning. But it's not going to be sustainable. That's the current predicament that Mike Tomlin finds himself in. So because it's Pittsburgh and because the standard is so high, finishing 9-8, finishing 10-7, it ain't good enough. And when they had that 5-game slide last year, they thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be the answer. I didn't think that was going to be the case, because what we're getting right now is a typical Aaron Rodgers season where the guy is old by quarterback standards, and he starts off pretty well, and then he falters towards the end. And we saw him falter towards the end before his even New York Jet days. We saw that happen his last year in Green Bay. We all remember that inexcusable loss he had to Detroit at Lambeau Field when they had an opportunity to win, and you're in terms of getting into the playoffs. But that's what happens when you have a soon-to-be 42-year-old quarterback, and when the guy has a QBR of 6, I don't care if it's Bill Walsh and Bill Belichick combined. You're not going to do anything with that. So this is where Mike Tomlin deserves credit. He was asked about the fire Tomlin chance because, like last year, they're going in the opposite direction as the season progresses, not moving forward, moving backwards. So this is what I love about Mike Tomlin. He takes accountability. He doesn't point fingers. He keeps it real. And this was his response to the Steelers' chance and the fans of Mike Tomlin being fired.
Man, I share their frustration tonight, man. We didn't do enough. And that's just the reality of it.
The other reality of this, aside from Cam Hayward, that's the only Steeler I saw on the field showing out. That's the only Steeler I saw going maximum effort. That's a problem. So I do agree with this notion. It is time for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers to part ways. Not that they would be worse off holding on to Mike Tomlin so long as they get a quarterback. But it doesn't seem like this Steelers organization and the players are responding to Mike Tomlin the way they did 10 years ago, the way they did 15 years ago. But you talk about the guy's career. He's got more career wins than Joe Gibbs, Bill Parcells, Tom Coughlin, and Chuck Knox. He's got more playoff wins than George Papa Bear Hallis, Mike Shanahan, and Sean McVay. He has more games above 500 than John Madden, George Allen, and Joe Gibbs. Not to mention another great coach that never gets put in the conversation of all-time greats in George Allen. Mike Tomlin has had a first-ballot Hall of Fame career. He will be successful at his next stint with his next opportunity. But I believe it's time for both to part ways. And I compare it to Andy Reid. Andy Reid did wonders in Philadelphia. But at some point, even that being the case for Bill Belichick, in today's game, you can only be there for so long until that voice doesn't get, heard with the same amount of curiosity and sincerity. And that's happening to Mike Tomlin right now. And it happened to Philadelphia with Andy Reid. Andy Reid was a game above 500 in Philadelphia in the playoffs. It's pretty good. Super Bowl appearance, 5 NFC title games. But at some point, the writing was on the wall. It was time for both to go their separate ways. Andy Reid is a better coach than Nick Sirianni. Andy Reid is a better coach than Doug Peterson. But those guys won Super Bowls. The Philadelphia Eagles won multiple Super Bowls with multiple head coaches. Well, why is that? Because they had Jeffrey Lurie, obviously. You have Howie Roseman, but you needed a new voice. And Andy Reid goes to Kansas City, doesn't struggle, but wasn't making a whole lot of waves with Alex Smith. And then he gets the absolute lifeline that any coach could desire on their best day, and that is Patrick Mahomes. And Andy Reid goes from 11-13 in the postseason to 8-3 with Kermit the Frog, a.k.a. Patrick Mahomes. That includes 3 Super Bowl victories and 5 Super Bowl appearances. Mike Tomlin deserves the same kind of break. Mike Tomlin deserves a franchise quarterback. He hasn't had one in nearly 10 years because even the last 2 or 3 years of Ben Roethlisberger, he was nowhere near his prime. Didn't take care of himself the way I thought he could have. Didn't exactly play the game of football at a level where you could be successful well into your 30s with the physical nature of being Big Ben. So I do envision Mike Tomlin, without question, being successful at his next stop, the same way we saw from Andy Reid. But I also believe after 19 years, given the fact that mediocrity and the Pittsburgh Steelers have been the same sentence for far too long, it is time for both to go their separate ways. Ray Jarvis, before we get to the busy phone lines, is there anything that you disagree with about that statement?
Absolutely not. Everything runs its course. And that's the reality of the situation. I think sometimes we get too comfortable with same, but how many years has it been?
19. It's been 2 decades.
You know what my life was 19 years ago?
Well, we were in elementary school 19 years ago.
Holy. After 19 years, winning with the previous coach's players, once those players phased out, you never reestablished dominance. You never got a quarterback post Big Ben. It's time. There's a guy named Dart in New York, New Jersey, whatever.
Yeah.
He's right there.
Yes.
If there's a soft landing for you, it's in the swamp at the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, even if NFL defenses are more complicated and more complex than ever before, it's still a quarterback's league. You don't win anything if you don't have the main piece. Winning with a guy wearing a glove, Pickett, not going to get it done.
Right.
Winning with a couple of fossils, Wilson, Rodgers, not going to get it done. Winning with a guy who can't throw the ball the best, but he's a great athlete, Fields, not going to get it done. But if you have a young guy, the offensive line are figuring some things out, Malik Neighbors is on the way back, you're going to add to that skill position group in the offseason. You have some pretty good defensive pieces already in place. The Giants are a pretty good job to have. And you know what? Why not make history? Because if memory serves me right, I don't think the Giants have ever had a black head coach. So it would be a history-making hire. It just makes sense.
I don't want to get this one wrong because I'm Googling this as we speak. Obviously, we know the Jets have had Todd Bowles, Herm Edwards.
The Jets' front head coach position is a revolving door.
Right. They've certainly done their due diligence when it comes to that. Wow, that's a great point that you make. They have not had a black head coach in franchise history.
Not at all.
Wow. They gotta be the only one. Like maybe one of 3.
Handful. That would require some Googling. But
I know. This is where we need a really steadfast research team.
Yeah.
That's a great point that you make.
It's a history-making hire, Shep.
It really would be.
And you know what? Marco talked about it in the last hour. The Giants don't need an X's and O guy anymore.
Right.
They've tried that multiple times.
Right.
They need a leader of men. That's what's been missing, to your point as well. That's what's been missing since Tom Coughlin got the boot. A leader of men.
You're 100% right. I can't believe there are double-digit teams in NFL history that have not hired.
Shep, when you think about the Rooney Rule,
a
it
black
kind of
head
makes
coach.
sense.
That's unbelievable.
If you have to institute a Rooney Rule in order for guys to get interviews, then it checks out. Essentially.
So the Cowboys, they've never had a black head coach. The Ravens, although one would argue Ray Lewis was their head coach.
Yeah.
Right? We all know Ray Lewis was the head coach of that team. Seattle, Tennessee, the Carolina Panthers.
Some of these teams are younger in their existence, so you give them a pass. They haven't had as many opportunities to hire coaches.
Jaguars, Rams, Saints, and Bills.
Well, let's make some history.
Yeah, that's a third of the NFL. That's a third of the NFL that has never hired a black head coach.
And considering the Giants front office and the owners in particular love to have a steady hand at the top,
right?
They prefer a chiseled jaw running the organization.
But Ray, and I'm not saying you're saying this, I got to tell you, Mike Tomlin's the right guy just because he's the right guy.
Yeah.
Like just because of his resume, his credibility, what he's meant for stability for Pittsburgh. The guy takes everything on the chin. He doesn't back down from anybody or anything, and he will come in there and absolutely set the tone from day one. And you cannot be successful long term. I don't care who you are as a head coach without a star quarterback. Bill Belichick never had a losing season with Tom Brady
at all.
Never had a losing season. It's not an accident. His last year in the NFL, he's 4-13. Well, did Bill Belichick forget how to coach?
Not at all.
Now, maybe some would argue he has when he went to North Carolina, but in the NFL, he did not forget how to coach. And they had not had a single playoff win in New England with Bill Belichick after Tom Brady, and he was there for 4 years post-Brady.
Oof.
So there is something to be said about, I feel like, and I don't know how often this name is getting mentioned, But Omar Khan, the GM for the Steelers, also has to take some responsibility here.
Oh, yeah.
But I will also say this. Mike Tomlin's contract, because I know recently he signed a 3-year extension, that is going to be over in 2027. So he's on the books for 2 more years after this. But the Rooney family is way too classy, has way too much moral ground with everything they've represented and done for the league. They're not going to fire him. That's not going to happen. What is going to happen is it's going to be a mutual parting of the ways. That's what I envision happening, and it's definitely not taking place until at minimum after the season.
And the thing is with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've been on this mediocrity treadmill for so long.
Yep.
And I think sometimes your prestige as an organization gets the better of you. At a certain point, you have to bottom out. You keep trying to bring in these quarterbacks to to stay afloat, and maybe you make a run. You have to commit to the tank, commit to the rebuild.
Sure.
Blow it up. When's the last time the Steelers actually blew it up?
Well, I thought it was weak what Kenny Pickett did, but I didn't think he was terrible.
Right.
I didn't think he was terrible. Now he's an afterthought now. He was a backup for the Eagles, which kind of tells me all I need to know about him. He wasn't willing to go somewhere where he was willing to compete for a starting quarterback position because there are a few franchises that it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to be the starter. Patrick Mahomes has that on lockdown. Lamar Jackson has that on lockdown. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, C.J. Stroud, I think, has entered that conversation. Matthew Stafford, as long as he suits up for the Rams. There are certain quarterbacks you're not going to get that starting gig over. And that was weak. That was a weak move on Kenny Pickett's part. When Russell Wilson and Justin Fields came in, and Kenny Pickett was like, I don't feel like competing. I'm going to go elsewhere.
But you can't trust, there's guys in the media space who don't like quarterbacks that wear their hats backwards.
Colin Cowherd comes to mind.
There you go.
Which is one of the worst. Listen, the guy's brilliant at what he does. I will never understand that take for the life of me.
Well, check this out. Ray Jarvis doesn't like quarterbacks that wear gloves. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And once I see that glove on or 2 gloves.
But one thing has to do with the actual product on the field. The other is just appearance at a press conference.
You're right, but it's just the whole idea of it. Quarterback with gloves, you're not winning anything.
I hear you. Well, we're winning on this show because we got the great Ray Jarvis, and we got great callers, and we got great contributors on the YouTube chat. If you were on hold, we were getting to all your calls on the other side. The question of this particular hour, what should the Pittsburgh Steelers do with Mike Tomlin, and where is the best landing spot for Mike Tomlin, because we don't think there's going to be a future after 2025 when it comes to Sixburg. We'll get to your calls on the other side. This is The Good Shepard in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to join us again, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. You can always hit us up on our YouTube chat on the Infinity Sports Network page. We're at 16,000 subscribers. And you can always hit me up on social media, whether it be Twitter or Instagram, at Shep On Air. We are coming right back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Good Shepherd in for Bart Winkler on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Tuesday night on the West Coast and Wednesday morning on the East Coast. Let's get back to the busy phone lines. We got a friend of the show, Alex in Miami. Alex, always good to hear from you, sir. How you doing and what you got for us?
Hey, man, I want to thank Ray Jarvis for the tunes he played on the rejoin, man. That's my kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Salsa, right? That's like is that out of the? That seems like it's music out of the DR, man. It's beautiful music. Absolutely.
No, that's music out of New York, actually. It's salsa from New York, and it's
really.
Yep.
You know,
yes,
I've always, Alex, what's the big difference between Salsa 1 and Salsa 2?
The difference between Salsa 1 and Salsa 2? I don't think there's much of a difference, Shep. Salsa is salsa, but different countries have different styles of salsa. That I will tell you. There's Colombian salsa, there's Puerto Rican salsa, there's Cuban salsa, but at the end of the day, it's all salsa.
I'd like to chime in for a second. Alex would know for obvious reasons, but the sonics are a little bit different from country to country. If you go to, I go to a Dominican barbershop. The salsa in a DR barbershop doesn't sound like the salsa at the bodega at the corner store that might be owned by Papi that's from Puerto Rico. It's just different drums, different instruments. It's like a completely different vibe.
Now, do you rock out to this salsa music? Do you dance?
Absolutely.
I did not know.
You know when you
now you
I'm
just
not
created a whole
dancer.
new topic on our YouTube chat.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not a dancer, but when
Right.
if you're at the spot and the salsa or the bachata comes on, you have to engage.
So you would have no problem at a dance studio going up to any woman, being confident enough in your skills, and asking them to dance.
When that music comes on, you don't have to ask anyone to dance. You're getting pulled on the dance floor.
Oh,
it's a cultural thing.
Yeah, well, that sounds awesome, man. Alex, I'm actually in the midst of taking bachata and salsa classes. So I mean, it's some of the most beautiful music in the world.
It is beautiful music, and it pays my bills. So, yep.
Well said. Well said,
Way
my
to go.
friend.
Yes, sir. You and Ray were talking earlier about going back and forth about the future of sports media when it comes to football players, and you guys didn't mention Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston
That's a great one. That's a great one. Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's already done it. I mean, he's been on multiple broadcasts as a player / analyst, and brought down the house with his commentary and his humor. And his, just charisma. That's a great example. It's going to be interesting. Is it going to be like a Ryan Fitzpatrick situation where like he's such a unique personality, but never necessarily had that great career as a quarterback? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yes, he definitely has a future in the space, not just in the NFL analyst space, but potentially in Hollywood.
No, he definitely does. He has a good personality. He's marketable, and I think he's going to wind up making more money in the future in media and maybe even as an actor than he did in football.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would agree with that 100%, Alex.
Yep. Ray Jarvis earlier and Marco Belletti made their vow as Mike Tomlin being the coach of the New York Giants.
Sure.
But, Shep, I live in a very warm place it's now 72 degrees. It's sort of they call it South Beach, but it's really Miami.
All right.
Beautiful woman, great nightlife. You can listen to salsa, bachata, merengue, dance the night away.
This is a good pitch. This is a good pitch. This is a good pitch for Tomlin. Yeah.
I think that if Mike Tomlin is listening, I would like to tell him that Miami would be a great fit for him and that we would welcome him with open arms. And me, myself, I could even send Steve Ross an email for him to vow for him and give him my okay.
Okay. Well, listen, you got the stamp of approval from Alex in Miami. I mean, you're on the fast track. That's what that is.
That's what that is. That's what that is, baby. Mike Tomlin, we want you. When it comes to the New England Patriots, you got to remember that yes, they made great strides. Drake May is playing out of his mind. Mike Vrabel is doing a great job coaching, an elite job. But you also have to understand that they just made it to the party. And going forward, when the playoffs come, we all know what everybody's record that made the playoffs is, and it's going to be 0-0. Going forward, yes, they made it to the party, like I said before, but they might not even make it to the dance floor, and I don't think they're going to make it to the dance. I think that they have made a lot of strides, but there's a lot of teams with experience, and at this point, I'm still going with the fact that I think one of the teams with experience are going to rise up and come up and make it to the Super Bowl. But nonetheless, they've done a great job. They made a lot of strides, but not this year. But I think that next year they're definitely going to be my favorites to go to the Super Bowl coming out of the AFC.
Yeah, well, they know they got the head coach, locked down, and they got the quarterback locked down, who's going to continue to get better. Alex, always a pleasure to hear from you no matter what time you call. We'll talk over the weekend, buddy, and stay good to Miami. You always are, and I will be even more well-versed in bachata and salsa the next time we talk.
It sounds good. And whenever you need if you ever need any tips, any bachata lessons, any salsa lessons, I'm the guy for you.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for the support, Alex, both on the radio and when it comes to the hips don't lie. Shout out to Shakira. In all seriousness, I'm not even saying this as a joke. Like, salsa and bachata are some of the best, most popular dances in the world. And to Ray's point, you feel that music, you feel that vibe. It's like being an athlete. Like, you just get locked in, you get in a zone, and you don't want it to end. And I would highly encourage anybody to go try a dance class, whether it be bachata or salsa. Watch sports all you want. Talk about sports all you want. There's something to be said about getting outside of your own body and just shaking and moving. It doesn't get much better than that. And speaking of shaking and moving, it's something Mike Tomlin might be doing in a couple months from now, and he may be moving to New Jersey or Florida. We'll see. Alex, I'm thinking New York and New Jersey before I do Florida. Let's get to Tony in Vancouver. Tony, appreciate the patience, man. Always good to hear from you. How you doing and what you got for us, sir?
I don't necessarily agree that there's a rotation of coaches is the best way to go. I mean, Seattle just got rid of the best coach in their history. You know, the only coach that won them a Super Bowl. And the reason why was the defense, that Legion of Boom defense. He was never able to recreate that.
Right.
And they became the worst defense in the league. So they kept John Snyder, and they went and got the best defensive mind in the league in Mike McDonald. And so you give me 14 points a game, and I'll give you an offense that can win 5 out of 6 times. That defense changed in the offseason. I saw it. Same players that Pete Carroll had, and their scheme and the way they run things and the mindset.
Yeah, well,
changed so much.
Tony, we were it's in terms of the retread. Like obviously, Pat Shurmur, he had a little bit of experience in Cleveland, but we were more talking about giving guys. I mean, listen, if you're going to land a young guy like a Mike McDonald, and the Ravens miss him plenty, trust me on that. But if you're going to land a young guy, you got to get it right. But you do have a proven commodity in a Mike Tomlin, in a Mike McCarthy, and I know he did some really reckless and heinous things, and some of the things he did were absolutely deplorable. And who knows if he gets a second chance, that being John Gruden. But with all those 3 guys, they walk into a locker room and they have the attention of everybody, and all eyes are locked in on their respective resumes and their pedigree, and you don't have to win anybody over. The resume and the experience speaks for itself. And the Giants have not had that since Tom Coughlin. And it's not an accident that every single time they have hired a new coach without a track record, without a resume, it might start off well. Ben McAdoo started well. Pat Shurmur, it didn't get started. Joe Judge had a decent start his first year. Brian Daboll, coach of the year. But all of it came to a screeching halt because they weren't able to sustain the locker room. You wouldn't have to ever worry or fret about that when it comes to Mike Tomlin or Mike McCarthy.
You know, what I see it is if you only give up 14 points a game, you're going to win 5 out of 6 games. That's all I got to say. I don't care who you bring in.
I agree.
You give up, 14. I mean, Seattle is a meat grinder. You don't. They say it's like playing 14 guys on it. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know their scheme. They change all the time. They're brutal.
They should have beaten the Rams as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And look, I mean, I know Geno's not getting the necessary protection, and I don't think the Raiders, 2 wins is necessarily indicative of him. I don't think they have a lot to work with around him. But there's no question to me that they upgraded. They absolutely upgraded with Sam Darnold, who I don't even think is an elite quarterback. But you have a steady quarterback, you can go far. And you got to give Seattle all the credit in the world for how well they have performed this year under a second-year head coach in Mike McDonald, under a first-year quarterback in Sam Darnold, at least in terms of playing in Seattle. And by the way, Jackson Smith and Jigba, this guy may set a record when it's all said and done this year for the most yards in the season. So you thought it'd be somehow taking a step back, allowing DK Metcalf to go to other pastures, but they have been great without him. You got to be feeling really good about Seattle football right about now, and they look like they have their coach for not years but potentially decades to come.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you, Tony. Good to hear from you in Vancouver. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN. That is 888-710-4476. Marco, do you prefer to have a host in studio or a host on an ISDN line?
No one's ever asked me. Prefer someone in the room? Yeah, sure.
Fair enough. I see you wearing your Yankees hat. That is not unusual. My question for you, and I know we've talked a lot about the New York Yankees, but let me ask you this. Ruth is number 1? Greatest Yankee of all time?
Yeah.
Who's 2? Gehrig?
Yeah.
Aaron Judge.
Mm-hmm.
Top 5? Has he cracked that list?
No.
Okay.
He'll get there.
Who's your 5?
I mean, it's the obvious five. I mean, it's still DiMaggio, Mantle, and Berra.
Oh, Jeter doesn't make the
No.
conversation.
No.
Wow.
Look, I understand the conversation, and I watched Jeter play every inning of his career.
Sure.
I'm not taking away from his greatness. I'm not. And I didn't see Yogi Berra play, nor did I see Ruth, nor did I see I didn't see all these guys.
Right.
But there is something to be said for, and people forget, Yogi Berra won 3 MVPs.
Right.
He won 10 titles.
Right.
He was the backbone of those championship
Sure.
teams.
Sure.
People forget about him, and it's because, he talked funny. He had funny lines.
Right.
He also became a left fielder when Elston Howard became the catcher, when he was later in his career, but he was still a vital part of that line. He doesn't get anywhere near the credit.
He doesn't.
That anybody would ever give to any Yankee, and it's simply because, well, he had other guys on the team. Go. Again, we can't talk to them. Find out what Joe DiMaggio or Mickey Mantle or Whitey Ford thought about. Yogi Berra was the backbone, and he transferred from the DiMaggio to the Mantle Yankees and kept everything together. Sure, there was talent all over the place, but when there was a little bit of a we're not sure, it was Berra that kept everything together.
But that would mean Joe DiMaggio actually had nice things to say about people. And rumor has it he did not have a lot of nice things to say about anybody.
Like Yogi.
How could you not like Yogi? Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I've always said on this show we could do a 4-hour show on Yogiisms alone. Very quickly before we go to your update, have you heard that famous Joe DiMaggio story, the most famous story he ever tells about his batting average and playing like 50 years later? Have you ever heard that story?
Go ahead, give it.
So he was asked in the 90s how he would do compared to the modern day game compared to how he was in the 30s and 40s. And he goes, well, I'd probably hit 270. And someone goes, Joe, Yankee Clipper, you are way, way too humble. You think you would really hit 270, the guy that had the 56-game hit streak, the guy that could have had so much better numbers if not for the wars that he sacrificed for this country? He goes, I'd be 80 years old.
It's funny, though, when you say that, because I've heard this story.
Right.
And maybe this is the game of telephone. I thought it was Ted Williams.
I think Joe DiMaggio said that.
Okay.
I think Joe DiMaggio said that.
And that's why it's the game of telephone. I thought it was a Ted Williams.
Yeah.
That's what, when you started the conversation, I thought it was Ted that was quick to say that.
Although, now that I'm thinking about it, Joe DiMaggio told that story. I'm thinking it was about himself, but Ted Williams, Teddy Ballgame, would have that type of confidence. He was in his 40s, and this was when no one had these kind of numbers in his 40s. In his 40s, he batted like 332 in his final season.
Mm-hmm.
It's just insane. There's a reason why he is the greatest hitter to ever live in many people's opinions. Aaron Judge may have something to say about that before his career is done. Just saying. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. We're going to get to all your calls on the other side as we finish the Bart Winkler Show strong. Before we do anything else, let's get to Marco Belletti. Here's our latest sports flash.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Shep, Ole Miss doesn't have Lane Kiffin anymore, but they did get off its coordinator Charlie Weiss Jr. back, at least for the college football playoff run, that is. Weiss has been allowed to coach for the Rebels during the playoff before he joins Kiffin at LSU. Playoff committee actually saw fit to move the Rebels up a spot to 6 despite the loss to Kiffin. Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, that's your top 5. Texas A&M falling 4 spots to 7, followed by Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, and Miami. BYU also agreed to a multi-year extension with Kalani Sitake as after he flirted with Penn State. Nittany Lions continue to overturn every rock, try to find a replacement for James Franklin. NBA, the Thunder just continue to roll down the Warriors 124-112. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander poured in 38 as OKC is now 20-1 on the season. Celtics outscored the Knicks 123-117 behind 42 from Jaylen Brown. T-Wolves outlast the Pelicans in overtime, 149-142. Anthony Edwards with 44. Spurs got by the Grizzlies, 126-119. Sixers rolled the Wizards, 121-102 as Tyrese Maxey at 35. And the Raptors handled the Blazers, 121-118. Scotty Barnes, 28. College hoops, great one, Duke in Florida.
Gets it in for Caleb. Playing there defensively. 27 seconds to go. Bounces top of the key. Boozer's got it now. Chinulu there defensively. Dribbles to the right to Evans on the left. He wants a 3. Got it! Big time from Slam. The lead is won. 67-66. 15 seconds to go.
There's your game winner. Cameron Boozer led the way at 29 points and 6 rebounds. Duke able to outscore Florida 67-66. Call courtesy of the Blue Devils Radio Network. Rest of your scores: top-ranked Purdue dismissed Rutgers 81-65. UConn erased Kansas 61-56. Michigan State rolled Iowa 72-51. North Carolina able to hold off Kentucky 67-64. Syracuse up at Tennessee 62-60, and USC bounced Oregon 82-77. NFL, Steelers claiming veteran wideout Adam Thielen from the Vikings. They also signed Asante Samuel Jr. from the practice squad, released veteran Darius Slay. Hockey, Golden Knights survived the Blackhawks in a shootout 4-3. Capitals 3, Kings 1, Wild shut out Edmonton 1-0. Avalanche handled the Canucks 3-1. Predators dominate the Flames 5-1. The Maple Leafs ripped the Panthers 4-1. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Check out our new and improved website at infinitysportsnet.com. That's infinitysportsnet.com.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
In for Bart Winkler, here's David Shepard.
Welcome back, everybody. This indeed is David Shepard on the Infinity Sports Network. Number to join us, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Hope however and wherever you may be listening from, you are having a great Wednesday morning if you're on the West Coast or Mountain Time. Hope you're having a rest of your great Tuesday night. We got Pat Boyle coming up in 10 minutes. Before we do that, let's get to the busy phone lines. We got Guy in the ATL looking to weigh in on the Atlanta Falcons. Guy, how you doing, man?
What's going on, boss? I really love the show. You know, last time I called in, I didn't get to mention this, but that moment that I think you and Bart had, and you guys were going back and forth about you being able to take on Mike Tyson, that was just radio gold. You know what I mean? And
Thanks,
Marco Belletti dying of laughter going into the sports flash was amazing.
Well, you got
really love the show.
Thanks, Guy. You got a heck of a memory, man, because that was years ago at this point. And I don't do an act on the radio. What was that? Oh, gee, I don't do. I don't do. I don't do any act on the radio. I really believe, G, that I could beat Mike Tyson now. Now, I'm not fighting Iron Mike in the 80s and 90s, but you put me in the ring with a 60-something-year-old man. You saw what happened to him when he went up against Jake Paul, who's definitely not a fighter.
I know Marco Belletti is dying of laughter in the background, and I'm gonna let you have it. You follow me?
Well, gee,
it'd be a great show, though.
Thank you, man. Listen, here's the other thing, and I mean this in all sincerity. G, if you cannot believe in yourself, you cannot expect anyone else to ever believe in you. So I may be an idiot for thinking I can get into a ring with Mike Tyson and go toe-to-toe with him. But if I don't believe it, no one else will. So I have to believe it and convince myself before I even have a fighter's chance, literally and figuratively. Now, a fighter's chance is something that...
I give it to you.
Thank you, G. Now, a fighter's chance is not something that Atlanta has had for quite some time, unfortunately.
Not at all. You know, I know it looks like we're going up on our 8th season without making the playoffs. And, you know, the coaching carousel in the NFL is a saga in itself. But
right.
No disrespect to the former caller, Alex. You know what I mean? The city of Atlanta, we got some nice women and we got some nice nightlife. And I think that, you know, we definitely love to have Mike Tomlin. He kind of fits the culture out here and everything. But as a lot of other teams would as well. But I kind of want to get your perspective on, you know, like Raheem Morris and his coaching abilities. You know, I don't think that Mike Tomlin will really take a job in Atlanta, being how he endorsed Raheem Morris so much. You know,
that's a really good point. Look, I don't think Raheem Morris is a terrible coach. I thought he had success in Tampa. I thought he had success last year, considering how bad Kirk Cousins was at one point, you know, in the middle of that season, and then taking over a rookie quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. And listen, you got weapons, man. Whatever he wants to call himself, whether it's Bijan Robinson, he is fantastic. I think Kyle Pitts is a stud. So there's weapons. Now, I'm going to give Raheem Morris a little bit of a break here because nobody at this point believes Kirk Cousins is the answer to anyone's solutions. So we don't know what Michael Penix Jr. is. I would give Raheem Morris a third year. I know it's been rough, but you saw how rough it's been for Cincinnati without Joe Burrow. I mean, they had the good fortune of being able to play a Baltimore Ravens team that looks like they want to go nowhere this year, and the Bengals still only have 4 wins. When you don't have a quarterback in this league, you're going to get exposed. And that's what's happened with the Falcons. It was a bad signing of Kirk Cousins coming off the ACL, and then you double down by basically alienating him, making things even worse, and going after a rookie in one of the top 10 picks.
Yeah, and I will say that losing Michael Penix is definitely going to be tough on any coach. But as you guys kind of spoke on earlier, the right coach can really turn a team around. Whether it's New England or what's going on in Chicago, and like I said, even whether it's Mike Tomlin or even the former coach of the Packers and the I'm forgetting his name right now.
Mike McCarthy. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, with all the pieces that we have, one of the best linemen in the league, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, everybody coming up, the 2 studs. We got rookies on defense. That sounds like a softer landing to do something like, as you said, Andy Reid did and anyone else. Now, of course, I know I'm just talking as if he's listening.
Right.
But,
no, it's
everybody's going to be after those 2 coaches.
Right. Gee, it's not a bad pitch. We would talk more about this, but we got to go, man. Great call. Appreciate the back and forth, and call more often, man. Good to hear from you.
Thanks, boss.
Thanks. Thank you, G. Appreciate you, man. Special shout-out to our audience, our callers, our YouTube chat. Excellent job out of y'all. Excellent job out of Ray Jarvis. This was a pleasure, my friend. Always great to work with you. Awesome job. Always enjoy the back and forth. Do not go anywhere, folks. Pat Boyle, he's coming up next. Be good. Be good to each other. Yes, daily. I am taking salsa and bachata lessons. You got to get out of your comfort zone every now and then. Good Shepard saying I love you all. Talk to you on Saturday, everybody. Be good and be good to each other.
You're in a 5-minute break.